Chapter 57. This king only wants to take your Su Yingxue insisted on leaving, so Chu Yihan brought his sword and followed behind her. Su Yingxue turned to look at the man with a sharp gaze and awkwardly tugged at the corner of her mouth. Your Highness, it's not appropriate for you to keep following me, is it? I will clear the obstacles for you. If you choose to stay in the prince's mansion, you will be safe. But if you want to leave, one will fight until you are safe. Chu Yihan's words struck Su Yingxue deeply. She found herself wanting to stay. Firstly, if she returned to the Marquis Manor now, it would attract attention and expose her identity. Secondly, she didn't want to burden Chu Yihan and owe him too much that she couldn't repay in the future. One apologize for troubling you tonight, Your Highness. If there's anything one can do for you in the future, one will help, Su Yingxue said calmly. A strand of her hair fluttered in the night breeze, sticking to her fair and delicate face, making her look even more tender. Chu Yihan held his sword in one hand and lifted her into his arms, carrying her back into the room. Su Yingxue was placed on the bed. She hurriedly propped up the man's chest and said, Your Highness, I only said I would serve you. I never said anything about wanting to be with you. One only want to do this with you. Chu Yihan's eyes were deep, filled with a thick desire that disgusted Su Yingxue. She recalled the night in the palace when Chu Yihan took her first kiss and took advantage of her. Chu Yihan, if you dare touch me, I will poison you right now, Su Yingxue threatened, pressing a silver needle against his neck with a cold tone. Chu Yihan glanced at the needle on his neck and remarked, So, you want to poison me even after sleeping on my bed? The needle in Su Yingxue's hand trembled. You asked me to sleep on your bed, rather than wanting to sleep with her? Chu Yihan turned over and lay beside her, his voice magnetic and slightly hoarse. I have no interest in forcefully taking a woman's body, especially yours. In the palace, Your Highness was not like this, Su Yingxue coldly sneered, pretending to be righteous. Are you dissatisfied with how one behaved in the palace? When Chu Yihan raised his eyebrow, a hint of wickedness appeared in his eyes. Su Yingxue sensed the danger and quickly turned away, covering herself with the blanket. No. She pretended to fall asleep quickly, but Chu Yihan chuckled and said, If I were to force myself on you, I would first conquer your heart and then your body. The order must be clear. He was a man of principles. Su Yingxue fell into a drowsy sleep. In her dream, she was too busy despising this man that she forgot there was such a dangerous person sleeping beside her. When she woke up, Chu Yihan had already gotten up and was drinking his morning tea in the room. Su Yingxue rubbed her aching head as she walked out. Chu Yihan had sent someone to assist her with washing up. While she was washing her face, he made sure to tell her, Other than you, I do not need for anyone to serve me intimately. Cough, cough. Su Yingxue choked on the water and glared at Chu Yihan as she wiped her face. That doesn't prove that you haven't been served by someone before. What if one or two little vixens had succeeded? Hong Lian's appearance was also exceptionally seductive. Su Yingxue couldn't believe that Chu Yihan wouldn't be tempted by her beauty. Chu Yihan slammed his teacup heavily on the table, displeasure evident on his face. The old butler who was commanding the servants at the side said, Miss, I assure you that your highness has never been served by a woman. In our prince's mansion, other than Miss, not even a female mosquito can enter. Chapter 58. Attacking the Empress soft side. The old butler was in his 60s or 70s. He looked at Su Yingxue with a sincere expression. Su Yingxue had a feeling that if she did not believe him, she would have hurt the old man's heart. All right. After Su Yingxue finished wiping her face, Chu Yihan pulled her to sit beside him. Chu Yihan's index finger landed on her face, wiping away a drop of water that trickled down from her hair. Catching a whiff of the medicinal fragrance emanating from her, Chu Yihan couldn't help but lower his head and kiss the tip of her hair. He maintained good control and didn't kiss her, but his scorching breath enveloped and surrounded her. Su Yingxue's heart suddenly lost its rhythm. Boom, 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 boom. Stop jumping. So noisy. In Su Yingxue's mind, little ginseng jealously rolled its eyes. Humph. Fool. Even kissing her required dodging. Su Yingxue gritted her teeth. Shut up. They'll settle the score when we get back. What did you say? Settle the score? Chu Yihan furrowed his brows slightly and asked. Of course. Su Yingshi's eyes shifted, and a cold light poured forth. The person who attempted to assassinate me yesterday must be involved with the Empress. One will never allow them to chase after me. The Empress is in the palace, and it's inconvenient for you to deal with her directly. The best approach would be to strike from outside the palace. Chu Yihan supported his chin and earnestly offered advice. If we target her vulnerability outside the palace, her grown son, the seventh prince, would be the ideal target. Su Yingxue blinked. She needed to go back and check on Ziwei's condition. If he woke up, she would have him go and capture Chu Chengye. They'll provide you with some manpower. Go and do what you need to do. Chu Yihan made it convenient for Su Yingxue. Su Yingshi's beautiful eyes showed a hint of surprise. Your Highness, the seventh prince seems to be your nephew. Are you so effortlessly giving him up? Chu Yihan's expression remained calm. What does my nephew have to do with me? Su Yingxue was speechless. Your Highness was impressive. Su Yingxue thought about how it was rare for her to let Ziwei rest. So, she planned to let him sleep a little longer. With Chu Yihan's men, she directly captured Chu Chengye after he left the house and dumped him in a secluded, dilapidated courtyard. Chu Chengye had been weakened by her softening tendon powder and fell to the ground weakly. However, he bit his teeth angrily. Who are you? How dare you capture me? Are you courting death? Su Yingxue, wearing a black veil and a bamboo hat, stepped forward and delivered a kick to Chu Chengye. Be quiet. She loathed noisy and quarrelsome men, especially Chu Chengye. If he shut his mouth, she would at least have something pleasant to look at. Chu Chengye had been arrogant and proud since childhood. How could he listen to her? He shuffled closer to Su Yingshi's feet and muttered, You'd better release me quickly. One will spare your life and leave you intact. Otherwise, I will definitely... all. Before he could finish, Su Yingxue stomped on his elbow joint, causing him to cry out in pain. She innocently asked, What were you going to say? What will you do? Why did you suddenly stop talking? Chu Chengye was in so much pain that the veins on his forehead bulged. Taking advantage of Su Yingxue lowering her head and approaching him, he gathered the strength he had been storing and suddenly reached out, grabbing her hood. Su Yingxue immediately covered her face and turned around, while Chu Chengye widened his eyes. He was about to see her face. This detestable woman. Suddenly, a powerful blow struck the back of his head. Su Yingshi's hood fell to the ground, and he was knocked unconscious. Su Yingxue saw Ziwei silently landing and let out a long breath. Are you awake? Do you feel better? Ziwei's face was cold and expressionless.
Yes.
Your complexion looks better. Su Yingxue reached out to check his pulse, attempting to divert attention away from the fact that she had drugged him. Chapter 59. There's light on her body. There was still no expression on Ziwei's gloomy face, but he voiced a warning that contained a hidden threat. Next time, don't. Su Yingxue agreed on the surface. Okay, I won't use needles on you anymore. However, she still had to administer the medicine. You're not allowed to make me unconscious, Ziwei stated solemnly, enunciating each word. Su Yingxue attempted to change the subject. You stay here and watch over him. They'll go back to the Marquis Manor to check if my younger sister has returned. Su Yingxue. Ziwei called her by her full name, and the tone carried a hint of killing intent, causing Su Yingxue to halt her steps. She turned around, and the purple hues in his eyes emitted a bloodthirsty aura. I want to protect you for a lifetime. As long as he was alive, Su Yingxue couldn't be harmed in front of him. At that moment, Su Yingxue felt warmth in her heart. Even though their relationship was merely an employer-employee one, with Ziwei being an assassin she had hired, his persistent desire to protect her made her want to say, thank you. Ziwei froze for a moment, as if he didn't expect Su Yingxue to say that. He also didn't anticipate that her smile would be so captivating. Su Yingxue asked Ziwei to stay and guard Chu Chengye, but he refused, insisting on following her. Su Yingxue couldn't resist him, so she could only give Chu Chengye more medicine, making him sleep for a day and a night without opening his eyes. On the way back to the Marquis Manor, Ziwei did not say a word. Su Yingxue interacted with him more to gain his trust. In the future, if she had the chance to take him down and detoxify him, she would start chatting with him. When they discussed other topics, Ziwei responded with silence or simple acknowledgments. It was only when they mentioned the Silver Moon Pavilion that he would speak a complete sentence. Is Honglian the owner of the Silver Moon Pavilion? Su Yingxue recalled that enchanting woman and couldn't help but feel cautious. Ziwei pursed his lips. You could say that. What do you mean by could say that? Does it mean that the Silver Moon Pavilion has more than one owner? Su Yingxue tilted her head. The corners of Ziwei's eyes slightly lifted, as if he admired her intelligence.
Yes.
Then do you know Honglian? What kind of woman is she? Compared to me, who is more formidable? Su Yingxue's coquettish face exuded confidence. After all, she snatched him away from Honglian. He should support her, shouldn't he? Ziwei shattered Su Yingxue's fantasy with a single word. She. Su Yingxue's expression instantly turned cold, and the words "not happy" were faintly written on her face. Although Ziwei wasn't skilled at comforting people, he explained seriously, she is ruthless, but you are better than her. Upon hearing this, Su Yingxue's expression softened a bit. That's true. You have been devoted to the Silver Moon Pavilion for so long, yet she is unwilling to detoxify and help heal your body. She is not a good master. May first not have her level of power, but those who follow me will live well. Only by staying alive do we have the right to speak. In this second chance at life, nobody knew better than her that being alive was more important than anything else. Ziwei followed silently behind her. In his heart, there was an icy mountain, but cracks slowly began to appear. He inexplicably wanted to get closer to Su Yingxue. There seemed to be light and warmth emanating from her. In the Marquis manner, Su Dingheng was so anxious that he had become much thinner. When he saw Su Yingxue return, he instinctively wanted to point at her and scold her. However, when the words reached his lips, he restrained himself and changed to another question. Yingxue, did your genius doctor enter the palace? Why hasn't he brought Ruer out yet? Su Yuro still hasn't returned to the residence? Su Yingxue raised her eyebrows, feeling somewhat surprised. Chapter 60. The seventh prince is missing. She thought that if the empress hadn't captured her, she wouldn't make trouble with Su Yuro anymore. After all, Su Yuro was Su Dingheng's beloved daughter and Chu Qingye's muse. But it seemed that she had underestimated the empress' ruthlessness. Su Dingheng's face was filled with anxiety and his wrinkles were deeply creased. Of course, she hasn't returned. I sent someone to the clinic to find you, but you weren't there either. Ruer is your only sister, and because of you, she was detained by the empress. You can't abandon her and must bring her back safely. A tinge of desolation crossed Su Yingxue's heart, and a mocking smile appeared on her lips. Father, have you ever considered that 1 a.m. also Su Yuro's only sister? If it were me trapped in the Empress Palace today, would you speak to her in the same way? How did you end up in the Empress Palace? Isn't it all because of that genius doctor of yours? She deliberately provoked the Empress. Su Dingheng retorted coldly, and his eyes filled with blame. If it weren't for the fact that Su Yuro still needed her help, he would punish Su Yingxue. Father, why don't you ask why Su Yuro recommended my genius doctor to treat Consort Xiang? My clinic was destroyed, so who took over? Was it you? Or her mother who wasn't allowed into the house by her grandfather? Su Yingxue's icy eyes revealed a sharp edge, dissecting Su Dingheng's hidden thoughts. Su Dingheng became furious and yelled, Su Yingxue, how dare you speak to me in such a manner? I demand that you bring the genius doctor into the palace immediately and exchange her for Ruer, or else I will expel you from the Marquis Manor. Is that so? Su Yingxue's powerful gaze startled Su Dingheng. Her sharpness was too overwhelming, and as her father, he found himself unable to control her. Father, whether Su Yuro returns or not is not my concern. Even if she dies in the Empress Palace, I will not claim her body. As for your other intentions, you'd better put them away, or else next time. It won't be as simple as someone being trapped in the palace. Su Yingxue said this and turned to leave. You just like your mother, you are nothing more than that. What's the use of living if you're not gentle and virtuous? You might as well die. Su Dingheng's heart filled with anxiety and anger as he watched her walk away, her flowing red attire and heroic appearance. After Su Yingxue left, Su Dingheng changed his clothes and went into the palace. Inside Fengzhou Palace, Su Dingheng paid his respects, and when Su Yuro saw him, she smiled understanding. Father, you were worried. I am with the Empress, and she treats me well. Su Dingheng patted her hand with relief and respectfully thanked the Empress. Thank you, Empress. Marquis Su, you should know that what one want is not your gratitude. The Empress, wearing expensive armor on her well-maintained hand, lightly slid it across the mahogany table, creating an eerie sound. Su Dingheng lowered his head. Rest assured, Your Majesty, I have already warned my rebellious daughter to hand over the genius doctor. Otherwise, I will punish her severely. I hope that your rebellious daughter will be obedient, the Empress said, caressing the armor, her eyes filled with killing intent. If Su Yingxue couldn't bear to part with the genius doctor, then there would be no need to keep Su Yingxue around. Empress, there's bad news. The seventh prince is missing. Outside the palace, someone urgently reported. What did you say? The Empress' eyes widened in anger. Su Yuro and Su Dingheng's hearts skipped a beat. Chapter 61. The Empress, searching the medical center. Su Dingheng returned to the Marquis Manor with a stern face. When he saw Su Yingxue leisurely staying in the courtyard, he immediately rushed in and questioned, Su Yingxue, why haven't you brought that genius doctor into the palace to exchange for your sister? What if something happens to Ruer in the palace? So, what if something happens? Why are you making such a fuss? Su Yingxue focused on arranging a basin, planting the herbs she had just dug out from Medicine King Valley. Don't you have any heart? She's your sister. Oh. Su Yingxue's expression remained indifferent. Marquis, this is tea with flower petals. Please have a taste. Jilan suddenly interrupted their conversation. Su Dingheng smelled the fragrant aroma of the tea and became even more furious. Why drink tea now? Su Yingxue, let me tell you, that genius doctor in your clinic should be chased out as soon as possible. Otherwise, if something happens to you, don't blame me for disregarding our father-daughter relationship. Su Yingxue ignored him and glanced at Jilan with praise. You've become smarter. It's all thanks to misinfluence. Marquis is currently in a fit of anger, so how can he enjoy tea? I used the best tea leaves and the dried flowers that Miss Wu just sent. The fragrance is captivating. If Marquis smells it, he might become even more infuriated and want to leave. Jilan blinked her eyes slyly and placed the tea in front of Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue finished planting the herbs and put them aside. She tasted the tea, and it was indeed good. She remembered Wu Jinyan. Did Sister Jinyan send a gift to brother? She has already sent one to you. How could she forget about eldest young master? But eldest young master is busy with military affairs and seldom returns to the residence. Shu Yin brought the gifts to the military camp. Eldest young master will overjoy when he receives them. Jilan replied with a smile. Prepare some gifts. The next time Sister Jinyan sends something, make sure to return the favor and ask her to accept it as a token of my gratitude. Su Yingxue instructed. Thinking about Wu Jinyan's difficult situation in the Wu family, she couldn't help but feel sorry for her. In a few days, once she had resolved the current matters at hand, she would lend a hand to Wu Jinyan. Jilan nodded and said, Miss had previously instructed me to return a caddy of birds' nest to Miss Wu, along with some tonics and jewelry. However, the person who delivered the dried flowers today was not Miss Wu but an elderly lady from Fufeng Center. She said that Miss Wu couldn't make it and, according to Manager Qi, Miss Wu hasn't been to the clinic for several days. She said it casually, but she didn't expect Su Yingxue to detect something amiss. Sister Jin Yin would never slack off. She has always been diligent. If she hasn't been to the clinic for several days, could something have happened at her home? Su Yingxue stood up, intending to go to the Wu family to check. Outside the door, Manager Qi rushed over. Miss, people from the palace have arrived. They have sealed our clinic. They said they're searching for the seventh prince. Su Yingxue furrowed her brows and had no choice but to follow Manager Qi to the clinic. Something had happened at the clinic again, and many people were watching from the surroundings. Even Liang Jin arrived with his men after hearing the commotion. When he saw Su Yingxue, He frowned and asked, "Are you the owner of this clinic?" Su Yingxue, despite her young age and previous reputation, remained polite when facing Liang Jin. Su Yingxue nodded. "Yes, I'm Su Yingxue. Welcome, Lord Liang." Su Yingxue still maintained courtesy towards Liang Jin, even without wearing the black veil. Liang Jin had no objections to Su Yingxue, but before he left, his madam had warned him not to let the genius doctor be harmed. So, he looked at the eunuch leading the imperial guards. "Sir, I'm afraid it's not appropriate for you to act in such a manner. If there is an issue, let me handle it on your behalf." Chapter 62. Can't find Chu Qingye. The Grand Eunuch Lu Fu was a powerful figure in the palace, serving as the empress' confidant and having significant authority. He held a piece of yellow fabric in his hand. "This is a decree from the empress, ordering the search of this medical hall to find any suspicious individuals or items. Lord Liang, do you intend to defy the decree?" "I dare not," Liang Jin replied when he saw the decree, refraining from further comment. With a hint of apology in his eyes, he looked at Su Yingxue. "No one can defy the empress' decree." Su Yingxue smiled and responded, "It's all right, Lord Liang. The genius doctor doesn't visit the clinic every day." Upon hearing this, Liang Jin felt relieved. He wouldn't have to worry about explaining the situation to his madam when he returned. Lu Fu, accompanied by the imperial guards, thoroughly searched the medical hall, inside and out, including the medicine cabinet. However, they couldn't find a single trace of Chu Qingye. Lu Fu came out anxiously and pointed at Su Yingxue. "Where is your genius doctor? Did you hide her? Quickly bring her out. We are searching for Empress orders, and there must be no mistakes." Su Yingxue found herself in a difficult situation. The genius doctor is quite temperamental and doesn't work at the clinic every day. She may be resting or visiting the residence of a certain lord. "In that case, where does your genius doctor reside now? Tell me." Lu Fu's voice grew sharper, resembling a stone scraping against a wall. "The genius doctor doesn't have a fixed residence. Then which lord's residence is she currently visiting? Speak up." I don't know either. The genius doctor is quite capricious. Why don't you search every lord's residence in Jiangdu City?" Su Yingxue kindly suggested. Lu Fu was infuriated by her words. "You just wait." He didn't have the time or the courage to search every lord's residence in Jiangdu City. He left with the imperial guards and could only search for Chu Qingye from house to house. However, after a whole day of searching, they had no results. Lu Fu cautiously returned to the palace and kneeled in front of the empress with a thud. "Empress, I am useless. I couldn't find the seventh prince. But your highness is a remarkable individual, and he will surely be safe." "Useless? What purpose do one have in keeping you all? My year. If anything happens to my year, the genius doctor, Tongchang Medical Center, I want them all dead." The empress' eyes turned red, filled with intense rage. That genius doctor surnamed Chu was a rival she had never encountered before in all these years. She had failed to deal with her on multiple occasions, and now she had even lost Chu Qingye. However, she couldn't openly search for Chu Qingye. If the emperor found out that Chu Qingye went missing because of her actions against the genius doctor, they would surely have a heated argument. Moreover, Chu Qingye's standing in the emperor's heart would be affected. But if she didn't search for Chu Qingye, what if that deranged genius doctor did something to him? My son must not face any danger. Go and bring Su Yuro to me." The empress gritted her teeth and slammed the table. Su Yuro was quickly brought before the empress. Kneeling in front of her, she felt the empress' overwhelming anger and couldn't help but worry in her heart. "Su Yuro, you useless person. What kind of idea was that? Your elder sister is not easily threatened, and now even my year has gone missing. If anything happens to him, I will kill you first." The empress grabbed the teacup beside her and hurled it at Su Yuro. Su Yuro dared not dodge, and the teacup struck her forehead, causing blood to flow down and stain her pure white dress. Chapter 63. Except Consort Xiang, Su Yuro's delicate body trembled. "If anything happens to your highness, I won't be able to live alone. But, your majesty," Ruer believes that even if my sister is audacious, she wouldn't dare harm your highness. As for that genius doctor, I have a way to bring her back into the palace again. When that happens, your majesty must not spare her in front of the emperor." Your majesty frowned. "What other methods do you have?" Su Yuro stood up and walked in front of your majesty, a sinister look crossing her delicate face. "Your majesty has been wary of Consort Xiang for so many years. She is the obstacle in your majesty's way. Why not use this genius doctor to get rid of her?" Your majesty's eyes narrowed. Get rid of her? Many years ago, Consort Xiang was favored. Because of her identity as the princess of the western regions, she could not destroy the friendship between the two countries. Therefore, she only gave her a slow-acting poison and made her suffer. And now, there was a new genius doctor who could potentially cure her. The Empress' eyes gleamed with malice, and her sharp armor pierced through the table. It's time to get rid of this obstacle. In Consort Xiang's palace, Xiang Ling had been following Su Yingshi's instructions, personally preparing and brewing medicine for Consort Xiang, without relying on anyone else. As a result, Consort Xiang's condition had been improving rapidly. At this moment, while she was boiling the medicine, Eunuch Qin rushed in with an anxious expression, pacing in front of her. Xiang Ling blinked her eyes and asked, "Eunuch Qin, what's wrong? Why aren't you by your majesty's side?" Eunuch Qin stomped his foot in anxiety. "I heard something important, but I don't know how to seek your majesty's guidance. What urgent matter has made you so worried?" Xiang Ling also became nervous. "I heard that something happened outside the palace. The genius doctor who was treating our empress has suddenly disappeared, and they have sealed off Tongchang Medical Center. Your majesty's illness hasn't fully healed, so if this genius doctor goes missing, what will happen to your majesty?" Eunuch Qin's face was filled with concern. "What?" Xiang Ling was so startled that she nearly overturned the medicine jar. While helping Eunuch Qin up, she accidentally burned her hand. "This can't be. The genius doctor must not encounter any mishaps. Otherwise, your majesty's condition won't improve. One will immediately report this to your majesty." Xiang Ling hurriedly picked up the medicine jar, but she recalled the genius doctor's instructions and quickly picked up the medicine jar. Eunuch Qin blocked her. "What are you doing? The medicine hasn't finished brewing yet." Xiang Ling looked troubled. "But the genius doctor instructed that one must personally brew the medicine for your majesty. No one else should touch it." "Ah, you silly girl. Is the genius doctor's life more important, or this medicine jar? One will watch over it here. You hurry and report to your majesty. Oh, and make sure your majesty tells the emperor to find the genius doctor." Eunuch Qin took the medicine jar from Xiang Ling and placed it on a small stove. He waved his hand at her. "Go quickly. One will watch over it. Don't worry." Xiang Ling trusted him and immediately ran to Consort Xiang's chamber to inform her of the situation. Consort Xiang was worried about Su Yingxue and immediately went to the emperor. The emperor felt sympathy for her and immediately dispatched the chief imperial guard, Lan Ling, to search for Su Yingxue. He accompanied Consort Xiang back to the palace, reassuring her not to worry. After Consort Xiang returned to the palace, Xiang Ling finished brewing the medicine. She brought it over to Consort Xiang. As the emperor, Chu Mingyuan reached out to take the bowl of medicine. "I'll feed you." Though he was in his middle age, one could still see traces of his former resplendence. Now, he was holding a bowl of medicine and looking at Consort Xiang lovingly. "Come, Xianger." Consort Xiang's sapphire-like eyes shimmered, filled with admiration for this man. Chapter 64. Consort Xiang is dead, thinking about how she had been bedridden for so many years and how he had never despised her. Her heart was filled with warmth. After Chu Mingyuan finished feeding Consort Xiang the medicine, he wanted to return to the study. However, before he could step out of the palace gate, he heard someone screaming behind him, "Your Majesty! Your Majesty, what happened?" Chu Mingyuan quickly turned around and re-entered the veil of Consort Xiang, only to witness her coughing up blood. Consort Xiang grasped the emperor's hand, her eyes containing a trace of reluctance. "Your Highness, Xianger." Su Yingxue was gathering herbs in the Medicine King Valley, preparing medicine for Consort Xiang and Ziwei. Little Ginseng had been nagging in her ear. You are so good at saving others. Why don't you save the person you like? Even though they carry the scent of old wounds, you haven't given them any medicine. If you say nonsense again, I will pull your whiskers. Who likes him? Su Yingxue rolled her eyes. My whiskers can revive the dead, so don't say that lightly. Back to the topic, do you not like the ninth prince? Then why did you gather so much blood-clotting grass and seven-star lotus? Little Ginseng caught sight of the herbs that Su Yingxue had secretly gathered. Su Yingxue snorted coldly and tucked the herbs into her embrace. It's none of your business. This was the bad thing about little Ginseng inside her body. It knew everything she did, and could even see through her thoughts, leaving her with no privacy. Regarding its earlier claim that its whiskers could bring the dead back to life, she didn't take it seriously. After carefully preparing 3 sets of medicine, Su Yingxue was about to find an opportunity to give Chu Yihan his share of the medicine when a loud commotion erupted downstairs. Manager Qi stood outside the door and said, Miss, the chief imperial guard from the palace has come to invite the genius doctor to the palace to see Consort Xiang, Your Majesty. Su Yingxue furrowed her brows. Why did Consort Xiang summon her to the palace so quickly? Could her condition have worsened? Or was there a problem with her health? She quickly changed her clothes and put on a hood before descending to the lower floor. She intended to have Wu Jinyan deliver the medicine to the prince's mansion, but seeing that she wasn't working at the medicine cabinet, she handed the medicine to Manager Qi. Deliver this medicine to the 9th prince's mansion. Manager Qi had never taken on this task before and received it cautiously. Miss, rest assured, one will personally deliver it. Su Yingxue nodded and walked out of the medical hall. She boarded the carriage with Lan Ling. Having served Chu Mingyuan for many years, Lan Ling knew that Consort Xiang was his most beloved woman. Therefore, she treated Su Yingxue with particular respect. As Su Yingxue chatted with him, she asked, Consort Xiang hasn't finished the medicine that I gave her, and Your Majesty suddenly summoned me into the palace. Is her body feeling unwell again? She wants to see me? Su Yingxue had a sense of foreboding. With Chu Chengye as her bargaining chip, Consort Xiang knew that Su Yingxue acted prudently and wouldn't summon her unless something happened in the palace or Consort Xiang had heard about an incident outside the palace. Su Yingxue's heart grew heavy as she followed Lan Ling to Consort Xiang's palace. Consort Xiang W7 as an intelligent and spirited beauty, and the atmosphere in the palace had always been light-hearted. However, as Su Yingxue entered, she felt an extraordinary weightiness. In the main hall, Chu Mingyuan sat with a dark expression. Before Su Yingxue could kneel and pay her respects, he angrily waved his hand. Lan Ling, seize her and kill her on the spot. Lan Ling hesitated for a moment, but Chu Mingyuan slammed the table and shouted, What are you standing there for? Kill her. This thief who killed Xianger. Lan Ling realized the situation and immediately unsheathed her sword, swinging it towards Su Yingxue. Chapter 65. Chu Yihan. Are you rebelling, however? Su Yingxue reacted even faster and skillfully evaded his attack. She argued, Emperor, one didn't harm Consort Xiang. Her condition was already improving. How could she be dead? Improved? Xianger didn't improve. She's dead. Chu Mingyuan's eyes turned bloodshot. Just now, Xianger was lying in my arms, lifeless. She even asked me not to blame you, but she died because she drank your medicine. He deeply regretted giving this genius doctor an opportunity. Initially, the court physician said that Xianger wouldn't live for more than 2 years, but she could have at least spent over a year with him. Every day she spent with him was precious. But she was dead now. But, Emperor, please allow me to see Consort Xiang. Perhaps there's still a chance to save her. Su Yingxue couldn't believe that Consort Xiang had died just like that. Emperor, Consort Xiang is already dead. Even the imperial physician has confirmed that she is not breathing. Perhaps she was an enemy spy and should be executed immediately. The Empress said sharply, You're right. You caused Xianger's death. I will not tolerate it. Lan Ling, kill her now. Chu Mingyuan's eyes were red and filled with hatred. With Consort Xiang's death, his face had aged. Lan Ling's martial arts were strong, so Su Yingxue was naturally not his match. However, she still stubbornly resisted. Emperor, let me see Consort Xiang. She still has a chance of survival. Don't you want her to live? How can one not hope? Chu Mingyuan roared. When Xianger died, he was filled with despair. Since you wish, then let me see Consort Xiang. She has been taking my medicine for more than a day. Why did something suddenly happen today? There seems to be something suspicious going on. Don't you want to investigate the matter? The coldness in Su Yingxue's eyes swept across the Empress. The Empress looked at her righteously. Consort Xiang is dead, and the imperial physicians have personally verified it. Do you think that the imperial physicians in the palace are all useless and can't even determine whether a person is dead or alive? Empress, why are you so certain that Consort Xiang is dead? Is that what you wished for? Su Yingxue's voice was cold. Even through the black veil, the Empress could sense the sharpness in Su Yingxue's eyes. How dare you? The Empress quickly changed her tone to a soft and weak demeanor in front of Chu Mingyuan. Emperor, how could one harm someone you cherish? This unknown genius doctor has caused the death of Consort Xiang and is now slandering me. One believe she should be dismembered to avenge Consort Xiang. The Empress is right. Lan Ling, seize her and dismember her. Chu Mingyuan shouted angrily. Hold on. The man's voice sounded wickedly arrogant and a little disdainful. His black robe billowed as he entered the hall, instantly making the air thin and suffocating. Ninth Prince, it's you again. The Empress gritted her teeth. It was Chu Yihan again. He had previously saved this genius doctor from her palace, and now he had appeared once more. Chu Yihan walked past the Empress, completely ignoring her. He approached Lan Ling and stared at him with a powerful aura. Put down the knife. Lan Ling's knife was still pressed against Su Yingxue's neck. Lan Ling's gaze was determined. The Emperor has given the order to dismember her into 5 pieces, and I am here to execute it. As he raised his hand, ready to strike, Chu Yihan swiftly attacked with his palm. The invisible force shattered the steel saber, causing it to break into 2 pieces that fell to the ground with a resounding clang. Lan Ling's hand holding the broken saber trembled, and he looked down to see his thumb and forefinger bleeding from the impact, causing a dull pain. Chu Mingyuan roared, Chu Yihan, are you planning to rebel? Chapter 66. Fight for her chance. It was rare for Chu Mingyuan to lose his temper with his 9th brother. He was usually arrogant, so he didn't take it to heart. But now, the person he was protecting was the one who lulled his beloved woman. Imperial brother, please calm down. One just want you to give her a chance, Chu Yihan said with a cold expression, but his eyes softened when he looked at Su Yingxue. What chance? I won't give her any. Chu Mingyuan waved his hand. Lan Ling, capture her. Anyone who obstructs will be held equally guilty. Lan Ling received the order and took the knife from his subordinate. Yes, one will obey. He led the Imperial Guards forward, expecting Chu Yihan to show some reaction. However, in return, Chu Yihan fought back against them. He defeated them all. Chu Yihan held the knife he had taken from the guard, blood dripping from its tip. The white blade reflected his resolute face, emitting a powerful aura that filled the entire hall. Chu Yihan, I usually let things slide, but now you're becoming even more audacious. Chu Mingyuan had always been wary of Chu Yihan, and now he had offended his authority as the emperor, sparking a desire to kill him. I have no intention of opposing you, Imperial brother. I only ask you to give her a chance, Chu Yihan firmly stated. The atmosphere was tense. Chu Mingyuan wanted to kill Su Yingxue, but Chu Yihan refused to give in. Su Yingxue knew that if this stalemate continued, they would not have a good ending. So she knelt and pleaded in a resolute voice, Emperor, I am confident that one can save Consort Xiang. If one fail to save her, I am willing to die as an apology. As soon as she finished speaking, the Empress mocked her. You lowly commoner. Have you ever considered your status? Are you worthy of being near Consort Xiang? Imperial brother, let her try. Chu Yihan threw away the knife, his voice calm. Chu Mingyuan's anger had not subsided. She caused harm to Xianger. Why should one trust her? just because I am confident in saving Consort Xiang's life. If you insist on executing me, then Consort Xiang will have no chance of survival. Don't you want Consort Xiang to live and accompany you? Su Yingshi's words struck a chord in Chu Mingyuan's heart. Chu Mingyuan thought of Consort Xiang and softened his stance. Fine, I will give you a chance. If you cannot save Xianger, Emperor, this person has sinister motives and is protected by Ninth Prince. I'm afraid they have conspired together. Emperor, please think twice and don't let their scheme succeed. The Empress interrupted Chu Mingyuan and slandered Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan. Su Yingxue gritted her teeth. Your Highness, there is no conspiracy. He was just protecting her. Chu Yihan pulled Su Yingxue back. Get up. He held Su Yingshi's hand and looked calmly at Chu Mingyuan. If she can't cure Consort Xiang, 1 a.m. willing to share her punishment. The Empress' eyes widened, and a trace of joy surged within her. Consort Xiang had already passed away. If they could not only eliminate the genius doctor, but also get rid of the influential Chu Yihan, it would be killing two birds with one stone. Chu Mingyuan had always been wary of Chu Yihan. This time, he had fallen into a trap. He snorted coldly. You said it yourself. Consort Xiang's body was placed in the main hall, and Chu Mingyuan allowed only Su Yingxue to see her. No one else was permitted to enter. Su Yingxue suggested, I want to meet Consort Xiang's maidservant and inquire about her recent medication. If they hadn't served Consort Xiang properly, the people in this palace would have been dragged out and executed long ago. The Empress taunted, a malicious glint in her eyes. Chapter 67. Little Ginseng's beard. Su Yingshi's gaze darkened as she realized that the Empress was truly ruthless, not leaving her any room to maneuver. A warm hand landed on her shoulder as Chu Yihan spoke in a deep voice. Leave it to me. Don't worry. Su Yingshi's heart warmed, and she nodded in agreement. Chu Yihan turned and walked out of Consort Xiang's palace, while Su Yingxue entered the chamber where Consort Xiang's body lay. Chu Mingyuan followed Su Yingxue. He watched nervously from the side. Su Yingxue checked Consort Xiang's pulse and breathing, and a cold shiver ran down her spine. Consort Xiang was indeed dead. She is already dead, and you've arrived too late. Little Ginseng sighed, floating through Su Yingshi's mind. Chu Mingyuan, still holding on to a glimmer of hope, asked, Can Xianger be saved? Su Yingxue should have answered that it was impossible, but when she thought about Chu Yihan, who had taken on the blame with her, her brows slightly furrowed. Emperor, please grant me some time to treat Consort Xiang alone. No, I want to stay here and watch over Xianger to ensure you don't tamper with her. Chu Mingyuan firmly refused to leave. He had failed to protect Xianger when she was alive, so he would never allow anyone to harm her now. Emperor, if I cannot save Consort Xiang, then I will willingly accept whatever punishment you deem fit. I cannot escape from the palace, but I am accustomed to handling illnesses independently. If Emperor refuses, then Consort Xiang will have no hope left, Su Yingxue calmly stated. Chu Mingyuan didn't believe that a dead person could be revived, but he couldn't bear to let go of her. He coldly declared, I will give you one final chance. If Xianger does not wake up, one will surely have you torn apart. With that, he left Su Yingxue alone in the chamber. Facing Consort Xiang's lifeless body, Su Yingshi's eyes gleamed with a cold light. Hey, are you stupid? He's already dead, and you're still gambling. Why don't you quickly escape with the handsome prince? Little Ginseng's voice filled with anger as it flitted around in Su Yingshi's mind. That handsome prince looked very capable, and they would surely be able to escape together. Why did she have to agree to that emperor's proposal? Su Yingxue entered the Medicine King Valley, feeling somewhat hesitant as she spoke up. Little Ginseng, you mentioned that your ginseng whiskers could revive the dead. Can you? No. Little Ginseng decisively rejected her. Do you think my ginseng whiskers can be used by anyone? What if something happens to you? How can I save you? If you die, they'll die too. It was now merged with Su Yingxue, and it only sought to protect her. It did not incline benevolence or protecting so many people, as long as Su Yingxue didn't die. In that case, forget it. Su Yingxue asked and left. Little Ginseng protested in her mind. Hey, hey, you're giving up just like that. She should at least struggle a bit more, talk about ethics and morals, and try to convince it. I don't want to force you. Su Yingxue sighed. Little Ginseng puffed up its cheeks in surrender. Fine, I'll give it to you. It lowered its head, allowing Su Yingxue to pluck one of its whiskers. Su Yingxue swiftly pulled one out. Little Ginseng screamed in her mind. It hurts so much. Su Yingxue was slightly startled. Are you all right, little Ginseng? I'm not okay. It's so painful. Little Ginseng's voice sounded dejected. Su Yingxue blinked and smiled. She had deceived little Ginseng into giving her the whisker. First, she made Consort Xiang consume it. Then she carefully examined her pulse to determine the cause of her untimely death. Suddenly, Consort Xiang regained her breath and pulse. Su Yingxue also discovered that the medicine Consort Xiang had taken was poisoned, resulting in her immediate demise. Chapter 68. A ghost. Consort Xiang had just regained consciousness, and her body was still weak. Su Yingxue administered acupuncture to help stabilize her condition, waiting for her to gradually regain strength and open her eyes. Consort Xiang, who had previously lost consciousness, opened her eyes and saw Su Yingxue by her bedside. She anxiously grabbed her hand and said, "Genius doctor, did you also die? Is it because of me? I'm sorry, Your Majesty, I am not dead. You have also awakened." Su Yingxue spoke in a gentle tone. What? I'm not dead? But I felt so much pain, unable to breathe, and kept spitting blood. Consort Xiang touched the corners of her mouth, where bloodstains were still present. Look, I've vomited so much blood, yet I can still talk to you? Realizing something was amiss, Consort Xiang touched herself and then Su Yingxue's hand. She exclaimed in joy, "Could it be? I've come back to life?" Su Yingxue made a quiet gesture. "Your Majesty, indeed, you were killed, but now you are alive." Consort Xiang shook her head in disbelief. How could someone who had died come back to life? Could the genius doctor in front of her be a deity descended to the mortal realm? Not only could she detoxify her, but she could also bring her back from the dead? "Your Majesty, the Emperor is still waiting outside. But I have an important question that requires a clear answer from Your Majesty." Su Yingxue's tone was earnest. Even though Consort Xiang's face was not visible, Su Yingxue could sense the seriousness in her eyes. Consort Xiang tightly clenched her sleeves. "Are you asking why I died? At first, I heard that you were in trouble outside the palace, so I begged the Emperor to bring you into the palace, hoping that he would protect you. But when I drank the medicine brought by Xiang Ling, I immediately felt indescribable pain in my organs. Then I vomited blood and lost consciousness. I didn't encounter any trouble. Someone had long planned this. They poisoned you and framed me, killing two birds with one stone." Su Yingxue's mind quickly turned, and she deduced that the mastermind behind this was the Empress. She had Chu Changya under her control, so she directly killed Consort Xiang, making the Emperor personally execute her. Consort Xiang's arm trembled. "I didn't expect that even Xiangling would betray me." It might not be Xiangling. The Empress had just encountered an accident, and she hastily executed everyone in your palace. Don't you think something is suspicious about it? Su Yingxue hoped that Chuihan would bring back good news. Consort Xiang took a deep breath as numerous scenes flashed through her mind, fueling deep-seated anger. The Empress. No matter how much she tried to compromise, the Empress would never spare her. She had even risked her own life. To be able to come back to life, it was all thanks to the genius doctor by her side. She resented it. She would never take another step back. "Xianger? Xianger, are you awake?" Chu Minjiwan's excited voice came from outside the curtain. Consort Xiang steadied her mind and forced herself to suppress the hatred within her heart. Su Yingxue invited Chu Mingyuan inside. When Chu Mingyuan saw Consort Xiang sitting on the bed, he could hardly believe his eyes. He immediately rushed forward and embraced Consort Xiang tightly. Tears of joy welled up in Consort Xiang's eyes as she said, "Emperor, it was so close. Xianger can still be by your side. Xianger, you're truly alive." Chu Minjiwan's eyes were slightly red, Unable to contain his excitement, Su Yingxue silently stood by the side and saw the Empress enter, her expression initially fierce. But upon seeing Consort Xiang's eyes open, she was frightened, her face turning pale. "Ah, it's a ghost. A ghost. How are you still alive?" Chapter 69. Investigate. Su Yingxue let out a cold laugh. "Emperor, Consort Xiang has just woken up. She cannot handle any more shocks." Consort Xiang cooperated and lay in Chu Mingyuan's arms, pretending to be frightened and panicking. "Emperor, Xiang'er is scared. Don't be afraid, Xiang'er." Chu Mingyuan tenderly reassured Consort Xiang and immediately scolded the Empress. "What are you shouting for? You frightened Xiang'er. Get out." The Empress was still in a state of shock. How could she have thought that a dead person could be resurrected? She brushed past Su Yingxue and could not see her face, but she was even more afraid of her. She had brought someone back to life who had been dead for hours from severe poisoning. What kind of creature was she? While the Empress believed that Su Yingxue was a monster, she also pondered her way out. Once Consort Xiang woke up, if the Emperor investigated her cause of death, what should she do? "Emperor, Xiang'er almost died without any clear reason. I implore the Emperor to seek justice for Xiang'er and let me stay safely by the Emperor's side." After experiencing death once, Consort Xiang's gentle and soft personality was now filled with resentment. "Xiang'er, I will investigate." During their conversation, Chu Mingyuan looked at Su Yingxue with a gentle gaze, mixed with a hint of vigilance. "I wonder, genius doctor, what method did you use to save Xiang'er?" "Emperor, I thought you would first ask why Consort Xiang was poisoned and how she was poisoned." Su Yingxue raised an eyebrow. "Who harmed Xiang'er?" Chu Mingyuan was taken aback. From the moment the genius doctor woke up Consort Xiang, his thoughts changed. If it wasn't the genius doctor who harmed Xiang'er, then it must be someone else with ulterior motives. "Ninth Prince, what are you doing? How dare you? Why is there blood splattered all over the hall?" The Empress screamed once again. Chu Mingyuan comforted Consort Xiang and brought Su Yingxue to the outer hall. In the main hall, Chu Yihan threw in two bloody people, scaring the Empress so much that her face turned pale. Chu Mingyuan furrowed his brows and looked at Chu Yihan. "What's going on?" Chu Yihan coldly pointed at the two people on the ground. Consort Xiang's maidservant and the chief eunuch, two extremely important witnesses. Xiang Ling had been tortured and was covered in blood. She desperately crawled towards Su Yingxue and weakly said, "Genius doctor, please save your majesty. Save your majesty." As soon as she spoke, the Empress panicked and said, "Emperor, these people failed to serve Consort Xiang properly and almost caused her to lose her life. They should be executed immediately to avenge Consort Xiang." "Empress, are you seeking justice for the concubine? Or do you want to kill the concubine's witnesses?" Consort Xiang trembled as she walked out. Chu Mingyuan immediately held her in his arms, his eyes filled with concern. "Xiang'er, I told you to rest well. Why did you come out?" "Emperor, I do not want to die for no reason again. Xiang Ling is a servant girl I brought from my hometown. She would never harm me." Every word from Consort Xiang made Chu Mingyuan's heart ache even more. "Your Majesty, it was all my carelessness. I left the medicine furnace for a moment today, and that's when you were plotted against. I deserve to die." Xiang Ling kowtowed, tears streaming down her face, consumed by guilt. "I had already warned you that only one person could touch the Empress medicine and not leave. Why did something happen to the Empress today? Why did you leave?" Su Yingxue asked sharply. Xiang Ling angrily pointed at the person beside her. "It's eunuch Qin. He came to tell me that something had happened to the genius doctor. I was worried and went to look for your majesty. When I came back, eunuch Qin had finished brewing the medicine and I brought it to your majesty. Who knew that your majesty would vomit blood after drinking it? I have never let others brew medicine for your majesty, but did not expect eunuch Qin to actually..." 1. Chapter 70. The Empress smells of poison. How could eunuch Qin not have thought of this? He had thought that by helping the Empress complete this task, he could live a peaceful life in the palace. Little did he know that the Empress would eliminate any loose ends. He was already halfway to his doom. Eunuch Qin trembled as the Empress left him no room to speak. Emperor, in my opinion, these two individuals failed to serve Consort Xiang properly and should be executed. It will serve as a warning to others. Is it to serve as a warning, or is the Empress trying to silence them? Su Yingshi's lips curved into a cold smile. A lowly commoner. When do you have the right to question me? How insolent! The Empress shouted, her eyes filled with anger. She ordered her men to capture Su Yingxue, but Chu Yihan stood by her side, gently placing his hand on her shoulder. When the guards and palace servants saw this, they immediately retreated and shrunk their necks, not daring to have any thoughts of touching Su Yingxue. That's enough, Empress. If you have nothing to hide, why rush to kill these two people? Chu Minjiwan's gaze turned cold as he looked at the Empress. He pointed at Eunuch Qin. Did you poison Xiang? Speak up. Otherwise, I will exterminate your entire family. Eunuch Qin was trembling. He had anticipated this moment ever since Chu Yihan saved him. But all his family members were in the Empress' grasp. Emperor, you are well aware of the Empress methods. If you want Eunuch Qin to tell the truth, it would be better to release his family first. Relieving him of concerns, Su Yingxue calmly suggested. Chu Yihan nodded in agreement. She's right. The Empress clenched her fists tightly, wishing she could tear Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan apart. Emperor, I didn't do it. Please don't listen to the slanderous words of this lowly person. Consort Xiang leaned against Chu Minjiwan's embrace, her eyes filled with resentment. Emperor, I want to know the truth and receive justice. Very well, Xianger, I promise you, I will ensure justice for you. Chu Mingyuan gently caressed her head. As he looked at Eunuch Qin, the weight of his imperial authority pressed down. I will spare your family, but you must tell me the truth. What did you do? Who ordered you to do it? Eunuch Qin was moved to tears and quickly kowtowed. Thank you, Emperor. I was instructed by the Empress to poison Consort Xiang's medicine. I have served Consort Xiang for many years and would never harm her. However, my family is under the Empress' control, and I had no choice. He had no other options. The hatred in Consort Xiang's eyes deepened. Empress, you are so vicious, using human lives to threaten and poison the lives of concubines. How can you be so ruthless? Consort Xiang, stop spouting nonsense. This matter was framed by this servant. I didn't do it. The Empress raised her chin defiantly, refusing to admit it. Oh? Then let's invite the court physicians to examine the poison in Consort Xiang's body and see if the Empress has been contaminated. Su Yingxue produced the handkerchief she used to wipe Consort Xiang's blood and handed it to the court physicians for analysis. After confirming the presence of poison on the handkerchief, the court physicians turned their gaze toward the Empress. What are you looking at? Search her. See if she carries this poison on her body. Chu Mingyuan waved his hand and shouted. The Empress was caught off guard. The palace servants held her down. The court physicians detected the scent of poison on her body and promptly reported, Emperor, the Empress carries the scent of this poison. No, it can't be. This is impossible. The Empress vigorously shook her head, unable to believe that she would be so foolish as to allow herself to be tainted with the scent of poison. Chapter 71. Exposing the miracle doctor's identity. Su Yingxue raised her lips and chuckled, which Chu Yihan happened to notice. Chu Yihan squeezed her palm. Su Yingxue innocently shrugged her shoulders, indicating that she wasn't the one responsible for this mischief. Chu Mingyuan was seething with anger. Empress, you are truly an exceptional Empress of mine. Over the years, how many despicable acts have you committed? You even plotted to take Xianger's life. Such maliciousness. Leave. The Empress hastily knelt down. Her eyes red as she shouted, Emperor, I dare not. I didn't do it. All of this is a scheme orchestrated by this lowly person. She impersonated a genius doctor. Perhaps she poisoned Consort Xiang and deceived her. They conspired against me. Conspire against you? Xianger is still in a weak state. How could she conspire against you? Chu Mingyuan tenderly embraced Consort Xiang, His brows furrowed as he glared at the Empress. Consort Xiang struggled to support her body. Empress, if you suspect that I'm conspiring with the genius doctor, you can have all the court physicians examine my pulse to determine if I'm truly alive and being manipulated. The Empress clenched her teeth. Court physicians, quickly come and examine her. See if this concubine has been bewitched by this fake genius doctor. She was filled with disdain. Even though Consort Xiang had received favor in the past, she would never dare to disobey her, the Empress of the Middle Palace. Now, she dared to challenge herself in front of the Emperor. Several court physicians hurriedly approached Consort Xiang, intending to examine her pulse. However, Chu Mingyuan ordered them to retreat. Get lost. How could I not know if Xiang'er is alive or not? Empress, you show no remorse and even wish to insult Xiang'er. I will not easily forgive you. Emperor, I didn't do it. I am wholeheartedly devoted to you, Emperor. You are still unaware of the truth. This so-called genius doctor has an unknown background. She might be a spy from an enemy country. Furthermore, there are people in Tongchang Medical Center who can testify that there was no such genius doctor there. Who can testify? Chu Mingyuan furrowed his brow. He had doubts about the genius doctor. Consort Xiang had died in his arms, but after being treated by this genius doctor, she miraculously came back to life. He could sense that she was still his Xiang'er and hadn't changed. However, the situation was just too suspicious. I can testify that the genius doctor is from Tongchang Medical Center, and there is nothing untoward about it. Chu Yihan's dark eyes exuded a convincing composure. Even Chu Mingyuan couldn't harbor doubts. Normally, Chu Mingyuan would have believed Chu Yihan. But Chu Mingyuan found his attitude towards this genius doctor quite peculiar. Chu Yihan had always been aloof and cold, never one to defend someone like this. The more he defended, the more Chu Mingyuan felt something was amiss with this genius doctor. He wanted to get to the bottom of it. Emperor, I am just an ordinary physician. The title genius doctor is bestowed upon me by patience. If this leads to your suspicion, I won't cling to the title. Anyone can be a genius doctor if they wish. I don't mind. Su Yingshi's words carried the same aloofness and coldness as Chu Yihan. Chu Mingyuan became even more doubtful. If that's the case, take off your hood and let me see who you are. Su Yingxue hesitated for a moment. Emperor, please forgive me, but I cannot comply. Emperor, I knew that there was something wrong with her. I implore you to capture this person and interrogate her rigorously. Do not let Su Yingxue escape. The Empress' expression was venomous, with an intense determination to take Su Yingshi's life. Chapter 72. Su Yuris framing Chu Mingyuan's eyes darkened. Since you refuse, I will have the Empress bring the witness here to question you and find out who you are and what your intentions are. Emperor, the genius doctor is a good person. And you? Consort Xiang anxiously wanted to plead for Su Yingxue, but Chu Mingyuan restrained her. Chu Mingyuan held her tightly. Xiang'er, your heart is pure and easily manipulated by others. Let me handle the questioning. Don't worry, I will be fair. Emperor, Consort Xiang wanted to speak again, but she saw Chu Mingyuan's face darken. He didn't allow her to speak further. If she pleaded again, it would only anger him and erase his compassion for her. Consort Xiang looked apologetically at Su Yingxue, and Su Yingxue waved her hand, indicating that Consort Xiang didn't need to worry. She also wanted to see who the Empress had brought as a witness. The Empress sent Grand Eunuch Lu Fu out, and he returned with a graceful woman. She wore a pure white dress adorned with jasmine flowers, and her whole being exuded flawless beauty like a blooming white lotus. Su Yuro gracefully knelt. Su Yuro, daughter of the Marquis of Martial South, pays respects to the Emperor, Empress, and Consort Xiang. Rise. Chu Mingyuan spoke coldly. The Empress claims that you are a witness. What evidence do you have to prove that this genius doctor has an unknown background? Emperor, I am the witness. The owner of Tongchang Medical Center is my sister, Su Yingxue. My sister has never known any genius doctor, so the identity of this person remains unknown. I beseech Emperor to thoroughly investigate. Su Yuro spoke earnestly, and the shimmering light in her eyes made it hard not to believe her. Chu Mingjiwan's gaze turned icy as he looked at Su Yingxue. Who are you exactly? Infiltrating the residence of the Marquis' daughter with unclear intentions. The Empress let out a smug laugh. This genius doctor of unknown origin would have an unfavorable outcome. Su Yingxue pressed her thin lips together, responding casually, Emperor, I don't have any hidden motives. I simply want to use my medical skills to treat and benefit the people. Chu Yihan observed the woman beside him, his eyes filled with approving light. She was covered from head to toe, but it couldn't conceal her radiance. Emperor, I implore you, no matter what mistake this genius doctor has committed, please don't blame my sister. My sister is still inexperienced and was deceived by her. That's why she did this. My sister did not intentionally harm Consort Xiang and the Empress, causing the Emperor's harem to be restless. Su Yuro pleaded earnestly. It was hard not to notice that compared to her sister, she considered her sister to be brainless. Su Yingxue's reputation for being impulsive and foolish had spread throughout Jiangdu City. Whenever Chu Mingyuan thought of her, he furrowed his brow. He remembered that as a child, she would often cause trouble in the palace, but he never paid much attention to her as a young girl, thanks to old General Su's merits. Now she had brought an unidentified genius doctor, which was infuriating. Your sister opens a medical center without even knowing the doctor's identity. It shows her lack of qualifications. Chu Mingjiwan's expression was cold. I may not blame her, but if the identity of this genius doctor isn't clarified, I will not let her go. Emperor, although the genius doctor's background is unknown, my sister is innocent. I implore you not to link the two together. My sister truly doesn't know the reasons. Su Yuro emphasized once again the connection between the genius doctor and Su Yingxue, causing people to speculate. The Empress sneered, even if your sister doesn't know this person's identity, she's still suspected of harboring them. If this person is guilty, your sister won't escape the consequences. Chapter 73. Show your face. Su Yuro's face was filled with horror, and she burst into tears on the spot, pleading relentlessly for Su Yingxue. Chu Mingyuan organized the situation and stared at Su Yingxue, giving orders, Lan Ling, go and capture everyone from Tongcheng Medical Center. I will personally interrogate them and find out who this mysterious genius doctor is and what her motives are. Hold on. Su Yingxue spoke calmly. Emperor, do you want to see the face of this humble subject and know my true identity? Chu Mingjiwan's voice was firm and cold. I will not allow anyone to endanger my harem and the stability of the empire. Her actions had already raised doubts in him. If he didn't investigate thoroughly, even if it meant making a mistake, he would never leave behind this unknown threat. Su Yingxue clenched her fists tightly. She didn't want to draw attention to herself, and now was not the right time to reveal her identity. But with the Empress and Su Yuro pressuring her, and Chu Mingyuan doubting her as well, Consort Xiang wouldn't be able to protect her. If you don't want to speak, I will take you away. Chu Yihan's low and magnetic voice sounded. He held Su Yingxue's hand, and the warmth in his palm touched her, prompting a response. Su Yingxue nodded. Yes. Chu Yihan held her hand and walked away, paying no attention to the astonishment of everyone in the hall. Chu Mingyuan shouted from behind, Chu Yihan, are you rebelling? Chu Yihan ignored him completely. Chu Mingyuan yelled, Lan Ling, kill this unidentified person on the spot. Yes, Emperor. Lan Ling chased after them with his sword. Taking advantage of the other guards being occupied with Chu Yihan, he leaped into the air and swung his sword towards Su Yingxue. Chu Yihan pulled Su Yingxue into his embrace. Even if Lan Ling found an opportunity, he didn't dare to harm Chu Yihan. A fierce struggle ensued among the group of people. Consort Xiang wanted to plead with Chu Mingyuan several times, but seeing his dark expression, she didn't dare to make an easy plea. The Empress wore a sinister expression. This genius doctor would undoubtedly die in the palace today. Once she died, Chu Chengye's danger would be resolved. No one would sacrifice the life of a prince while the genius doctor perished. As for Su Yuro, her eyes were fixed on Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue's hands, and she was furious. It was all because of Su Yingxue that Chu Yihan cared so much about this woman. She would die today. Su Yingxue would not have a good ending either. Chu Yihan's martial arts were powerful, and he defeated all the imperial guards by himself. When the obstacles were cleared, he wanted to bring Su Yingxue away. Su Yingxue heard Chu Mingyuan's angry roar behind her and suddenly changed her mind. Chu Yihan turned around and asked her, "What's wrong?" Su Yingxue curled her lips slightly. "Your Highness, I won't drag you down this time." She didn't want to owe him too much. She let go of Chu Yihan's hand and turned back to face Lan Ling, who was chasing after her. Lan Ling's moves were fierce, and he slashed at her. Even someone as skilled as Chu Yihan could not stop him in time. However, the black veil that was raised allowed Lan Ling to see a face that could topple the world. She was shockingly beautiful, so his hand trembled and the knife tilted slightly. The blade just happened to split the hood on her head. Clang! The hood fell to the ground softly. The moment Su Yingxue's face was revealed, everyone held their breaths. Only Su Yuro screamed, her face turning pale with fear. How could it be you? Su Yingxue returned to the palace and knelt with a straight posture. Emperor, I, Su Yingxue, your humble subject's daughter, had no choice but to deceive you. Please forgive me. You are Su Yingxue. The Empress was infuriated, and a wave of emotions flooded her heart. Chapter 74. Su Yingxue is full of tricks. She subconsciously glared at Su Yuro. What's wrong with you? Didn't you say that you knew her identity? How could it be Su Yingxue? You lied to me. You're courting death. Empress, please spare me, Empress. I don't know. I didn't know it was my sister. Su Yuro was so scared that she was trembling. Countless words of impossible gushed out in her heart. It was impossible for Su Yingxue to have medical skills. It was impossible for her to be so amazing. How could she do all of this? Impossible. Chu Mingyuan was stunned. You are Shu Li's daughter? Su Yingxue could see a trace of strangeness in Chu Mingyuan's eyes. He seemed to be very familiar with her mother, and the name he called her was Shu Li. Get up. Chu Mingyuan sighed softly. A trace of regret flashed across his eyes as he looked at Su Yingxue. Chu Yihan quickly walked back to Su Yingxue's side and held her hand. Her hand was a little cold, so Chu Yihan used his palm to warm her. Su Yingxue looked at him gratefully and then broke free from his hand. She knelt again and looked at Chu Mingyuan with a sincere gaze. Emperor, I hid my identity previously and made you suspicious. Consort Xiang and the Empress misunderstood. This is my responsibility. I beg for forgiveness. Chu Mingyuan's attitude changed drastically. Please rise, Su Yingxue. I don't understand, since you have medical skills and open Tongchang Medical Center. Why are you wearing a hood, hiding your identity, and getting involved in the palace conflicts? Su Yingxue turned around and swept her cold gaze across Su Yuro and the Empress. If it wasn't for Su Yuro and the Empress being so aggressive, I would have kept my identity a secret. Why? Chu Mingyuan was even more puzzled. Even Consort Xiang did not understand. I heard that the Marquis Manor's daughter, Miss Su, has always had a bad reputation, but you clearly have extraordinary medical skills and can even save my life, so how can you hide? She had previously thought that Chu Yihan, who had always been cold and would even reject the Emperor's request, was actually so concerned about a commoner girl and personally escorted her. So, she was Su Yingxue. Consort Xiang is a recluse and knows that my reputation is not good. Su Yingxue laughed at herself. Consort Xiang laughed softly. This has become my fault. I didn't mean it that way, Consort Xiang. What I meant was that my reputation is not good, even you know about it. If I were to practice medicine at Tongchang Medical Center, who would believe me and come to seek my help? And even if they did, how could I display my medical skills? Su Yingxue explained helplessly. She wished to use her real identity and practice medicine honestly, but her reputation and lack of trust from others hindered her. Not only would it arouse suspicion, but someone had to be willing to entrust her with the illness. According to Su Yuro and Su Dingheng's previous plan of flattery and cold violence, she could not do so. To hide her strength and accumulate strength, she did this. Hearing her explanation, everyone in the hall sighed. She had peerless medical skills, but because of her identity, she could not use them. Yes, that's right. The court physician sighed. If that's the case, Miss Sue's actions are reasonable. If not, wouldn't she be wasting her remarkable medical skills? Exactly. Who would disagree? Chu Mingyuan nodded in agreement and stroked his beard. It's understandable. What do you mean by understandable? Emperor, I think Su Yingxue is full of schemes and plots. The Empress pointed at Su Yingxue and shouted angrily. A trace of killing intent flashed in her eyes. Back then, she failed to kill this vile spawn in her mother's womb. After so many years, she even threatened her position. Chapter 75. Can't let Su Yingxue off, don't talk nonsense. She is Shu Li's daughter. Do you think you can tarnish Shu Li's medical skills? Chu Mingyuan shouted angrily, his expression more serious than when he learned about the Empress' plot against Consort Xiang. It was clear that he held great respect for Su Yingxue's mother. He instructed Su Yingxue to rise and said, although you were wrong to deceive me, considering that you did it for the sake of practicing medicine and saving lives, I will not pursue the matter. Furthermore, since you have cured Xianger, I will reward you generously. A hint of surprise crossed Su Yingxue's eyes, but she still expressed her gratitude by kowtowing. Thank you, Emperor. There is one more thing. After Su Yingxue stood up, Chu Mingyuan looked at her with a gentle gaze. Since you have inherited Shu Li's medical skills, you should carry on her legacy. Shu Li was straightforward, and you don't need to conceal your identity anymore. Be an upright physician. If some patients refuse to seek treatment from you because of your identity, it's their fault. Don't be upset about it, understood? His words carried earnest admonishment and a touch of consolation, providing a sense of reassurance. However, Su Yingxue remained concerned. Emperor, I dare to be impudent and ask if you knew my mother and were acquainted with her. Do you know the cause of my mother's death? I know your mother, but she has passed away. You don't need to ask about these matters anymore. Focus on your duties. Chu Mingyuan's words held profound meaning. He gave Su Yingxue various rewards, and even sent Lan Ling to personally escort her back to the Marquis Manor. Emperor, you can't let her go like this. Year has gone missing. She must have taken him away. The Empress had no choice but to reveal this matter, her eyes filled with anger. It would have been acceptable if she had been able to kill Su Yingxue, but now that Su Yingxue had received the Emperor's recognition and protection, Chu Qingye's safety was at risk. If Su Yingxue were to do anything to him, how could he go missing? If news spreads about a prince of the imperial family disappearing, it would be a laughingstock. If I learn the truth, I will certainly punish the culprits severely. Chu Mingyuan's words seemed like a reprimand directed at the Empress, but his gaze ultimately fell on Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue understood that Chu Mingyuan was indirectly instructing her to release Chu Chengye. He probably didn't want her to dwell on the matter between her and the Empress any longer. Considering Chu Mingyuan's kind treatment towards her, she could let him go. However, she would continue investigating her mother's cause of death, which she would investigate the Empress. Emperor, Xianger is tired. Consort Xiang, seeing that Su Yingxue's matter had been resolved, no longer tried to endure her pain. Having returned from the brink of death, she truly felt the extreme weakness of her body. After Chu Mingyuan confirmed that Consort Xiang was fine, he entrusted her treatment to the court physician and allowed Su Yingxue to leave. Su Yingxue was initially worried about Consort Xiang, but before she could speak, Su Yuro took advantage of the situation. Emperor, my sister possesses exceptional medical skills. Let her treat Consort Xiang. Initially, Chu Mingyuan had not paid attention to her, but upon hearing her words, he recalled that she had previously called Su Yingxue a fool and attempted to frame her. He immediately furrowed his brow. Impudence. Are you suggesting that the court physicians in my palace lack skill? Su Yuro hurriedly knelt, tears trembling on her delicate face. Emperor, I didn't mean that. I only thought that my sister's medical skills were outstanding, so why didn't you mention her exceptional medical skills earlier then? Chu Mingyuan interrogated Su Yuro, and she was so overwhelmed by the pressure that she dared not speak any further. Since Chu Mingyuan had already begun reprimanding her, he decided to say a few more words. Chapter 76. Seeing Su Yuro make a fool of herself, Chu Mingyuan reprimanded her and decided to say a few more words. You were never Shu Li's daughter. You were born from a concubine. Old General Su was kind enough to allow the children from concubines to enter the household. You should show respect to the legitimate eldest daughter and serve her well. However, I can see that you have shown no respect to your sister and have overstepped your boundaries. It is truly unacceptable. I won't punish a weak woman like you today, but I will tell Marquis of Marshall South about this and let him rectify the atmosphere in the Marquis manner. Su Yuro trembled in fear, feeling like a sieve being held tightly. On the other hand, Su Yingxue felt quite pleased with the situation. She received her rewards and left the palace. Lan Ling arranged a carriage for her, and Chu Yihan accompanied her, holding her hand. I will escort you back to the manor. Su Yingxue wanted to reject him. She had already caused Chu Yihan a lot of trouble. Today's conflict between him and the emperor had made her afraid. However, when she saw Su Yuro following behind, noticing her closeness with Chu Yihan, her eyes were filled with raging jealousy. She decided not to pull her hand away from Chu Yihan. Instead, she slightly raised the corner of her mouth and sweetly said, Very well. Thank you, Your Highness. Chu Yihan, with a mischievous smile on his face, intended to help her into the carriage. Su Yuro's throat went dry. She wished she could tear Su Yingxue apart. She shamelessly ran to the side of the carriage. Sister, please take Ruer back to the manor with you. Ruer hasn't seen Daddy for a long time and misses him dearly. Su Yingxue sat in the carriage and opened the curtain. She said indifferently, You can go back by yourself? Why do you have to ride with me? Su Yuro's face turned red from being rejected in front of the palace guards. I don't have a carriage. Sister, please take me with you. I miss Father. It's none of my business that you miss your father. You can hire a carriage and go back by yourself. How can you lose your way inside the palace? The palace is not a place for idlers. Su Yingxue laughed heartily, feeling particularly delighted to scold Su Yuro. Behind Lan Ling, a few palace guards were secretly laughing, saying that when the time came, they would make Su Yuro leave. Su Yuro was driven to tears by the bullying. She knew she could leave the palace, but she wanted to leave with Chu Yihan. Why should Chu Yihan be the one to send Su Yingxue back to the manor, while she couldn't even hitch a ride? Su Yuro had confidence in her teary-eyed appearance, so she approached Chu Yihan and spoke in a weak and delicate voice. Your Highness, I am weak and frail. Please have mercy on me and bring me back to the manor. I will be eternally grateful and repay you in the future, bang. Chu Yihan responded by closing the carriage window with a bang. He didn't even spare her a glance. Chu Yihan's action made the palace guards and attendants, who were previously holding back their laughter, burst into laughter. Lan Ling turned around and scolded them. Shut up. The palace guards immediately stopped laughing, but everyone was still looking at Su Yuro as if she were a joke. Su Yuro's eyes lit up, thinking that Lan Ling had a favorable impression of her. She turned to approach Lan Ling, intending to ask her to take her back, acting weak and fragile. However, Lan Ling glanced at her and simply said, Miss Su, please make way. Su Yuro was petrified on the spot. Seeing that Su Yuro didn't make way, Lan Ling waved his hand, and two palace servants brushed her aside. Then, he cleared the way for Su Yingxue and escorted her back to the manor. Su Yuro sat by the palace wall, crying out loud, Su Yingxue, you bully. You all bully me. She only cried for a short while before she walked toward the palace gate with her delicate steps. If she didn't leave quickly, the empress would find trouble with her. Chapter 77. Su Denheng kneels at Su Yingxue. Chapter 77. Su Denheng kneels at Su Yingxue. The empress had also suffered a great loss this time and would be punished. If she could not find Su Yingxue to vent her anger, she would not let her off. Just as she was about to leave the palace, Lu Fu's sharp voice rang out, Miss Su, it's still early. There's no need to rush out of the palace. Su Yuro's delicate body trembled, her eyes filled with fear. At the Marquis Manor, Su Dingheng heard that Chu Mingyuan had issued an edict, so he quickly changed his clothes and went to greet him at the gate. Seeing the carriages from the palace approaching, he was trembling, thinking that it might be because Su Yingxue had caused a major problem in the palace and the emperor was coming to reprimand her. But when he saw Chief Imperial Guard Lan Ling standing in front of the carriage, he became puzzled. Lan Ling was personally escorting them. Could it be that the emperor or empress had come to the Marquis Manor? This would be a huge trouble. Su Dingheng was well-versed in the ways of a civil official. The moment the carriage came to a stop, he immediately knelt and shouted, "This humble subject is guilty. Please forgive me, Emperor and Your Majesty. My daughter has caused trouble. It is all this humble subject's failure to properly educate her. Please forgive me, Emperor." A palace guard standing beside Lan Ling couldn't help but burst out laughing. Lan Ling looked at Su Dingheng in confusion and said, "Marquis, there's no need for you to do this. The one who has come is not the Emperor." Not the Emperor? Su Dingheng was perplexed. Then who else could be riding in the royal carriage? There was also another carriage behind, filled with valuable-looking items. Chu Yihan poked his head out of the carriage and said, "Marquis Su, do you only show respect to the Emperor and not to me?" Chu Yihan's words made Su Dingheng's legs go weak again, and he knelt heavily. "Greetings, Your Highness. Please forgive me, Your Highness." Su Dingheng's whole body was shaking. How could he have forgotten about this troublesome person? It was like encountering a ghost. Laughter suddenly came from the carriage, and Su Dingheng found it somewhat familiar. Chu Yihan got off the carriage first and reached out to help Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue playfully jumped down, and Chu Yihan held her waist tightly to prevent her from falling. At that moment, Su Dingheng's expression was complex as he said, You unfilial daughter. How could she willingly accept his kneeling in the carriage? She was defying the heavens. Father, you don't need to pay such respects to me. Please get up. Su Yingxue kindly reminded him not to be angry and to stop kneeling to her. Feeling a little embarrassed, Su Dingheng quickly stood up, his face showing both anger and chaos. But before long, Lan Ling conveyed the emperor's edict, stating that Su Yingxue had made significant contributions to save Consort Xiang. The items in the carriage were all rewards for her, and the emperor also mentioned that he would personally inscribe a plaque for the Tongchang Medical Center in the future, allowing Su Yingxue to manage it properly. Lan Ling also added as she deduced Chu Minjiwan's intention, the emperor distinguishes between seniority and values legitimacy. Marquis, please understand the emperor's intentions. Su Dingheng nodded repeatedly, saying, I understand. I understand. I will treat Yingxue well. She is the legitimate daughter of the Marquis Manor, and everyone in the residence respects her. Lan Ling nodded in response, saying, That's good. With his task completed, it was time for Lan Ling to return to the palace and report. He glanced at Chu Yihan from the corner of his eye. It seemed that he didn't intend to leave with him. However, this was not a matter for a chief imperial guard to be concerned about. After Lan Ling left, Su Dingheng looked at the carriage filled with rewards, his eyes shining brightly. He quickly ordered people to move them into the Marquis Manor and had no time to pay attention to Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan. Su Yingxue didn't know when Chu Yihan had taken her hand again. She struggled silently and whispered, Thank you for defending me today, Your Highness. It has caused you trouble to argue with the Emperor. Chapter 78. This king is here, you can be at ease. Chapter 78. This king is here, you can be at ease. Su Yingxue, I saved you. Not so that you could be courteous with me. Chu Yihan's face turned cold, and his tone was displeased. In front of so many people, should I not be courteous to Your Highness? Su Yingxue pulled at the corner of her mouth helplessly. Chu Yihan seemed unconcerned, but for the sake of her reputation as a young lady, he lowered his voice and said, You slept with me, so there's no need to be polite to me. Your Highness. Su Yingxue quickly covered his mouth and warned him with her eyes. Be careful with your words, Your Highness. It was he who had forced her. She never intended to sleep with him. Chu Yihan's eyes gleamed with a wicked smile. He didn't care about the process, only the result. And the result was that they had slept together on the same bed. He noticed that Su Yingxue had something on her mind, so he gently pinched her hand and asked, Do you suspect that your mother's death is related to Imperial Brother? Su Yingxue shook her head. The Emperor seemed familiar with my mother, But he refused to tell me anything. Why was Princess Shuli granted the title of princess? Do you know? Chu Yihan's fingers caressed the back of her hand. Su Yingxue tried hard to recall. In her previous life, she had never paid much attention to her mother, and she knew very little about her. She only knew that her mother had no relatives in the capital, but her status was noble, and she was respected by many people. Chu Yihan explained, Princess Shuli once saved my father, and my father bestowed her with the title of princess. At that time, my father intended to marry her to imperial brother, but Princess Shuli refused to be a concubine and chose to marry your father instead. Su Yingxue's heart felt a chill. Her mother was a woman of such integrity, but she must have been deceived by her father, who had the face of a scumbag civil servant. She nodded and said, Thank you, Your Highness. Su Dingheng had finished moving the belongings and had been watching them for a long time. Finally, Chu Yihan reluctantly let go of Su Yingxue's hand. Before leaving, he whispered gently in her ear, Su Yingxue, he'll be there for you at any time, whenever she needed him. Su Yingxue felt a warm embrace in her heart, melting away the coldness she had experienced in the treacherous palace. Yingxue, you have worked hard in saving Consort Xiang. Today, Daddy has prepared a feast for you to replenish your energy. For the first time, Su Dingheng showed a kind expression and was exceptionally considerate. After they entered the residence, he immediately ordered the dishes Su Yingxue loved, such as abalone, ginseng, shark fin, deer antler, and bird's nest. He brought out all the good things he had. Su Yingxue rarely had a meal with him, and she even had an extra bowl of rice. After seeing that she had finished eating, Su Dingheng put down his chopsticks and asked cautiously, Yingxue, now that both you and Ruer have returned from the palace, there's no reason for her to stay there. Besides saving Consort Xiang, did anything else happen in the palace? If there's any trouble, you must tell Daddy, and I will support you. Su Yingxue almost believed him. You will support me. If I say that I have angered the Empress, what? Are you crazy? How dare you provoke the Empress? Su Yingxue, you unfilial daughter. If you want to die, don't drag the Marquis Manor into it. Su Dingheng erupted in anger and cursed Su Yingxue with a string of insults. After he calmed down, he questioned her. Was your sister detained in the palace because of this? Su Yingxue, how could you be so heartless? Ruer is your biological sister, yet you didn't help her. Chapter 79. Eating Su Yingxue's remains cough. Su Yingxue took a sip of tea and choked lightly. She cleared her throat and calmly faced Su Dingheng. Su Dingheng looked at her composed demeanor and was about to say something to manipulate her. But before he could speak, Su Yingxue calmly said, Father, don't you have any idea why Su Yuro is still in the palace and unable to leave? Do you know why she knows Consort Xiang and why she became the Empress accomplice in framing me in the medical center? Su Dingheng's guilty conscience caused him to lower his head, and his left hand trembled uncontrollably. How did you know? Where did you hear all this? These are baseless accusations against me and your sister. Accusations? It seems that father no longer cares about my sister's safety. You even want to abandon all the businesses you hold. Su Yingxue lifted her teacup and let out a cold laugh. A trace of killing intent flashed in her once beautiful eyes. Su Dingheng panicked. You, what do you want? Your sister is a delicate woman. How can she withstand the torment in the palace? I will go and save her right away. You must not make things difficult for her anymore. Su Dingheng said this and paced back and forth in the hall twice. Su Yingxue, who was observing the scene, sarcastically remarked, Why isn't father going? If you wait any longer, the palace gates will be locked. Su Dingheng felt both ashamed and annoyed. He resented that Su Yingxue had seen through his cowardice and pretense, yet he had no choice but to turn back and plead with her. You are Su Yuro's sister after all. Why don't you bring her back and save her? If I save her, will father save me? Su Yingxue's smile turned mocking. If it were Su Yuro who returned now and Su Yingxue trapped in the palace, would father care about my life or death? I definitely would care. Su Dingheng stubbornly clung to his pride. Very well. Then I will stay here with father today, and see if Su Yuro will return. If she dies in the palace, I will personally take care of her and give her a grand funeral. Su Yingxue raised an eyebrow, her eyes sparkling like radiant pearls. Su Dingheng was nearly blinded by her brilliance. In the end, he didn't dare to cause a scene by entering the palace, so he could only wait in the Marquis manor. As night fell, Su Yuro finally returned. He anxiously looked at Su Yuro being helped in. Ruer, are you all right? Father was so worried about you. Father. Once she was back by Su Dingheng's side, Su Yuro couldn't hold back her tears any longer. She poured out all her grievances, unwillingness, breakdown, and weakness in front of Su Dingheng. Su Dingheng's heart trembled with her cries. Su Yingxue watched the scene unfold, and even with a touch of kindness, she reminded, Sister must be hungry. You should eat something to regain your strength before continuing to cry. Su Yuro glared at Su Yingxue with bitterness in her eyes. If it weren't for her, would she have been trapped by the Empress? Would she have endured the invisible but soul-crushing torment in the palace? However, her stomach betrayed her as it kept growling. She looked over at the sumptuous dishes on the table, feeling their alluring appeal. She could not help but scoop a bowl of soup and drink it. She hadn't eaten for a day in the palace, so everything tasted heavenly to her. But it was only after she finished a bowl that she realized, why is the food cold? When Su Dingheng saw her take the first bite, he wanted to tell her that this was the leftovers from his and Su Yingxue's meal. He wanted to make some new dishes for her. However, seeing how hungry she was, he could not bear to interrupt her. Chapter 80. Saving Wu Jinyan. Afraid that her self-esteem would be hurt, Su Dingheng tried to coax her in a roundabout way. Ruer, I will have the kitchen prepare another pot of bird's nest soup and some hot dishes for you. Take a seat and have a little more to eat later. Father, are these dishes leftovers from your meal? Su Yuro finally realized that the table full of delicious food had already been touched by chopsticks. Su Yingxue appeared satisfied, and she had actually picked up Su Yingxue's leftovers and eaten them so eagerly? Su Yuro threw the bowl and chopsticks aside, glaring at Su Yingxue with reddened eyes. You, how dare you treat me like this? You make me eat your leftover scraps. Su Yingxue replied earnestly, When did I mistreat you? Did I force you to eat? It was your ravenousness. Are you blaming me? Have you forgotten the lesson the Emperor gave you today? You were born from a concubine, while I am the legitimate daughter of the Marquis manor. There is a distinction between high and low, legitimacy and illegitimacy. Letting you cap my leftovers was an opportunity for you to serve me. And yet, you dare to accuse me? Su Yuro was both angry and afraid, trembling all over and unable to speak. How could she forget the Emperor's lesson today? But she was unwilling. She had also lived a life of luxury for many years and was Su Dingheng's daughter. Why should she be humiliated and trampled upon by Su Yingxue? Her anger overwhelmed her, and before she could catch her breath, she fainted. After just finishing the leftover meal, she even vomited all over Su Dingheng. Su Dingheng quickly called for help and had her taken care of in the courtyard. Su Dingheng followed along. Before leaving, he cast a disdainful glance at Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue touched her chest. It still felt sore and painful. In the end, there was no father-daughter bond between them. She went back to the courtyard and rested for a while. The next day, she woke up early and went to the clinic. Due to Chu Minjiwan's instructions, her identity was quickly exposed. She no longer wore a hood to conceal herself and began practicing openly at the clinic. Her consultation fees were not cheap, but there were many wealthy families coming to seek her treatment. She didn't even have time to take a sip of water in the morning. When she finally got some rest, she planned to talk to Wu Jinyan and ask her if she was in trouble at home. However, she couldn't find Wu Jinyan at the medicine cabinet. When she asked Manager Qi, he said, Miss Wu hasn't been here since that day. Something must have happened at home. A hint of urgency flashed across Su Yingxue's face. Why are you telling me now? How many days has it been since we last heard from her? Ah, miss, you were troubled before, so how could I bother you? Miss Wu hasn't come for a few days, and she would have sent someone to deliver things to Fufeng Center. However, when I went to Fufeng Center yesterday to find her, I discovered that she hadn't sent anything there for the past 2 days. The elderly and children there are extremely worried about her. Manager Chi sighed with difficulty. He was also concerned about Wu Jinyan, but he was only responsible for managing the medical clinic. A place like the minister's estate was beyond his abilities. Su Yingsuk furrowed her brows and hurriedly went to the Minister of Personnel's estate. When she stood at the door, she hesitated. How should she enter? If she entered through the main entrance and alarmed the entire minister's estate, it might worsen Wu Jinyan's situation. Ziwei appeared behind her, seemingly out of nowhere. She is being held in the backyard. Su Yingxue turned around abruptly, her eyes shining. With Ziwei's guidance, she easily jumped over the wall and made her way to the place where Wu Jinyan was being held. She pushed open the dilapidated window and glanced inside, seeing Wu Jinyan hanging from the ceiling beam. A surge of killing intent suddenly filled her eyes. Bang! She broke through the window and immediately released Wu Jinyan. Catching her body, Su Yingxue noticed that in just a few short days, she had become so thin that she was only left with a body of bones. Chapter 81. Fight. Save me. Wu Jinyan couldn't open her eyes, but when she felt herself being put down, she didn't forget to call for help. She could not die. She did not want to die yet. Sister Jinyan, don't worry. They'll save you. Su Yingxue took out a life-saving pill and fed it to her. Then, she carried her on her back and wanted to bring her out. Before she could take 2 steps, Ziwei blocked her way and said coldly, "There's someone." Su Yingxue stopped in her tracks. She heard someone walking in the courtyard as the person said, "Humph, I wonder if this bitch is dead or not." She had been hanging for 3 to 4 days, and she still had the strength to call for help. Wu Ruofei got angry just thinking about it. Wu Jinyan was lowly, but she was like wild grass on the mountain. She had a tenacious vitality. No matter how Wu Ruofei's beat, scolded, or bullied her since she was young, she never thought of dying. Recently, she had heard from a close friend who had beaten her stepsister to death that she could kill the stepsister she disliked by torturing her, so she did as she was told. However, she did not expect that Wu Jinyan was still breathing when she came to the courtyard last night. She wrung her handkerchief in anger and discussed with Feng He, the maid beside her. "Why don't you go get a knife and I'll poke a few holes in her body, let some blood out and then hang her up, so maybe she'll be dead in a day?" Feng He smiled in agreement. "All right, I will accompany Miss to see if she's dead. If she's not dead, I will immediately go and get a knife." Creak. The old wooden door was pushed open. Wu Ruofei was shocked when she saw Su Yingxue's red eyes. After she reacted, she pointed at Su Yingxue angrily. "Su Yingxue, why did you barge into my house? You even put her down. You're courting death." Su Yingxue kicked Wu Ruofei and let her fall. Anger surged in her heart. "Wu Ruofei, she's your biological sister. She would never bully you, but you treat her like this." When Su Yingxue heard what Wu Ruofei said just now, she realized that Wu Ruofei did not treat Wu Jinyan as a person at all. It was as if she was an animal that could be slaughtered by her. Wu Ruofei was in so much pain that she cried on the ground. "Su Yingxue, you barged into my house and kicked me. Men, catch her. Beat her up too." She had been spoiled since she was young and did not have a proper sense of right and wrong. Only what she wanted to do was right. At this moment, when she thought of the embarrassment Su Yingxue had given her previously, she became even angrier. Unfortunately, none of the servants in the minister's estate were a match for Ziwei. Ziwei's sword had yet to be unsheathed, but he had already broken their arms and legs, causing them to lie on the ground and wail in pain. Ziwei's murderous aura approached Wu Ruofei. Wu Ruofei widened her eyes in fear. "Don't come near me. I'm the precious daughter of my parents. If you dare to hit me, my father won't let you off." Su Yingxue carried Wu Jinyan on her back and sneered. "Ziwei, beat her."
Yes.
Ziwei's scabbard slammed into Wu Ruofei's body without mercy, breaking her limbs. Wu Ruofei lay on the ground, crying loudly. "It hurts. I'm going to die. Mother, save me." "Ah, Su Yingxue brought Wu Jingyan back to the clinic and examined her body carefully. She found that she had many injuries, big and small. She was beaten with a stick and had been hungry for a long time. Now, she was still unconscious. Su Yingxue could only feed her some ginseng soup to maintain her body. Basins of blood were carried out. Even Manager Qi could not stand it anymore and said, "This is too much. Why was this young girl's mind so crooked? How can she torture Jinyan like this?" Chapter 82. The minister is here when Su Yingxue asked Manager Qi to enter the room to take care of Wu Jinyan. He saw Wu Jinyan's pale face and sighed repeatedly. However, he thought about how Su Yingxue had barged into the minister's estate and even injured the minister's daughter. She was probably going to cause trouble again. "Miss, you broke the arms and legs of the minister's daughter. What if the minister comes looking for trouble?" he said worriedly. Su Yingxue wiped the blood off her hands, her expression cold. "He will come, and am waiting for him to arrive. Miss, something bad happened. The minister is here." Zhelan ran up, panting. The corners of Su Yingxue's mouth curled up slightly as she gestured to Ziwei. "Let's go downstairs." Ziwei obediently followed behind her. Manager Qi and the others in the clinic had never dared to speak to Ziwei. His aura was too intimidating. However, seeing him following behind Su Yingxue like a well-behaved puppet, Manager Qi couldn't help but sigh. "Our miss is truly formidable." In the main hall of the clinic, a middle-aged man was surrounded by over 20 guards. He was dressed in court attire and had a solemn expression. Su Yingxue descended the stairs slowly and spoke in a calm tone. "Who dares to hinder my clinic from conducting business? Do you understand the consequences of delaying a patient's treatment? How dare you? Su Yingxue, don't you recognize me?" Wu Hongtao angrily swung his sleeves. His face displayed an air of righteousness. However, Su Yingxue didn't take him seriously. She knew that beneath Wu Hongtao's solemn appearance was a corrupt individual. In her previous life, before she died, Wu Hongtao had been exposed to corruption, and his entire family had been arrested and exiled. Not receiving a response from Su Yingxue, Wu Hongtao thought she was afraid, so he berated her even louder. "You, as the legitimate daughter of the Marquis Manor, have come out in public to conduct business and even brought along my daughter. The two of you have disgraced our elders. And now, you have audaciously entered my residence, causing harm, murder, and even the death of my daughter. I will not let you get away with it." Wu Hongtao, in his position as an official in charge of reviewing others' performance, was skilled at using his words to defame others. The onlookers around the clinic were all taken aback by his words. "That can't be true. Miss Su is the owner of the clinic, which is known for treating and saving people. She wouldn't do such things." "That's right. I heard that Miss Su is a genius doctor who even cured the seriously ill consort's young. But can the minister lie and falsely accuse others? He said his daughter has died." When the minister says his daughter has died, which daughter is he referring to? Is it the eldest daughter who received preferential treatment, or the other miss who was tortured almost to death by the eldest young miss? Su Yingxue smiled mischievously. Wu Hongtao snorted coldly. "What does my daughter have to do with you, Su Yingxue? You intruded into my residence and injured my daughter. I will punish you." "Sure, but I will report your crimes to Lord Liang Jin," Su Yingxue said firmly. "What crime have I committed?" "Su Yingxue, don't spout nonsense. You're guilty of slandering a third-grade official. Even if your grandfather, old General Su, returns from the battlefield, he can't protect you." Wu Hongtao was so angry that his face turned red. He could not help but feel a little guilty. Su Yingxue flicked her hand and splashed a cup of tea onto his face. "You're not worthy of mentioning my grandfather. You. How dare you? How dare you? Men, seize her and take her to the capital prefecture." Chapter 83. My whole body hurts. Wu Hongtao was so furious that he stomped his feet and quickly commanded the guards. They rushed forward, but they couldn't even react to a single move from Ziwei. Wu Hongtao didn't even have a chance to see what happened. The group of guards he brought with him all ended up lying in a jumble inside the clinic, groaning in varying degrees of pain. After Ziwei finished beating them, he stood back behind Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue was holding a teacup, taking a sip, and said, "Lord Wu, are you still going to fight?" Wu Hongtao's face turned from pale to red. You, how could there be such a capable person by her side? His martial arts skills were incredibly strong, and it was terrifying. Wu Hongtao kicked the people around him a few times and shouted, "Are you all useless? Quickly, follow me to leave." "Lord Wu, do you think you can leave just because you can't win? Did I allow it?" Su Yingxue crossed her arms and calmly looked at him. Wu Hongtao panicked and said in a composed manner, "Su Yingxue, I hold the position of a third-grade official in the court. If you dare to lay a hand on me, I will." Bang. Wu Hongtao was kicked. Su Yingxue, don't care about someone's rank when I beat them up." Su Yingxue tilted her head, and her previously beautiful face emitted a chilling aura due to her furrowed brows. Wu Hongtao was dumbfounded. How could he have expected Su Yingxue to be so arrogant? Even before he could run out of the clinic, Su Yingxue grabbed him by the back of his collar and gave him another beating. Wu Hongtao quickly pushed aside the commoners and managed to escape from Su Yingxue's clutches. Of course, it was only because Su Yingxue had finished beating him up that he had the opportunity to escape. When Ziwei saw Su Yingxue clapping her hands and returning, a hint of gloominess flashed in his eyes. "Why?" Su Yingxue took a sip of water and paused for a moment. "What do you mean, why? You won't let me take action?" Ziwei's eyes darkened, and his gaze became unfathomable. It seemed like he thought she was rejecting him. Su Yingxue shook her head. "Although he's despicable, he's still an official. We can't kill him, so there's no need for you to take action. Don't waste your martial arts on someone like him." She patted Ziwei's shoulder, unaware of the change in his expression. Ziwei's hand covered the spot where Su Yingxue had patted him and lingered there for a while. This was her warmth. She also said not to waste his martial arts. This was her appreciation. A faint glimmer appeared at the corners of Ziwei's eyes, emitting a beautiful cold light. After Su Yingxue finished beating Wu Hongtao, she went upstairs to give Wu Jinyin an acupuncture treatment and administered a bowl of medicine. After sleeping for the entire afternoon, Wu Jinyin began to show signs of waking up. Manager Qi occasionally came to check on her and was amazed. Miss medical skills are truly extraordinary. Miss Wu, who was so severely injured, woke up after just one day of sleep. His eyes were filled with admiration for Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue waved her hand. "They'll have a conversation with Sister Jinyin for a while." "Manager Qi, I have a favor to ask of you. Please write a detailed medical report on Sister Jinyin's condition." Although Manager Qi didn't understand why Su Yingxue needed it, he immediately went downstairs to write the report. When Wu Jinyin woke up, she could only feel pain. Her heart ached. Her wounds hurt. Her muscles and bones hurt. Every part of her body was in pain. She had always been strong, but when she opened her eyes and saw Su Yingxue, 2 tears rolled down her cheeks. "Yingxue, you saved me." "Yes, I saved you. So, Sister Jinyin, you can't be too sad. You need to recover quickly." Su Yingxue held her hand and comforted her gently. She knew that the pain throughout Wu Jinyin's body probably couldn't compare to her extreme heartache. Chapter 84. Beat your father up even though they were both daughters. Wu Ruofei was showered with affection and treated as the apple of her father's eye, but she nearly died at Wu Ruofei's hands. What kind of heart-wrenching pain could be more cruel than this? Su Yingxue couldn't help but think of her previous life. She understood Wu Jinyin's pain very well. After allowing her tears to flow for a while, Wu Jinyin rationally asked Su Yingxue, "By barging into the estate to save me, you must have attracted attention. Did I cause you any trouble?" Su Yingxue held her chin and thought about it seriously. "Is it troublesome to beat up your father?" She intentionally teased Wu Jinyin, but Wu Jinyin's heart skipped a beat. "What? You beat up my father? What? Sister Jinyin blames me for." "No, I'm worried about you. He's a high-ranking official in the court. It's a serious offense to harm an official. How can you go to such lengths for me? If it implicates you and affects your well-being, how can I find peace in my heart?" Wu Jinyin anxiously shed tears. Su Yingxue wiped the corners of her eyes. Sister, as long as you don't blame me, that's all that matters. As for whether it's a serious offense or not, since I dared to act, I can assure you that I won't be guilty. Besides, it's your father who should be held accountable. Look at how you've been tortured, and yet he turns a blind eye, allowing Wu Ruofei to torment you. He's the one who failed as a father, and that's a serious crime. Heh, Wu Jinyin let out a mocking laugh. To be a father, he's not worthy. Wu Jinyin rarely talked about family matters, but Su Yingxue could see the resentment in her eyes. It seemed that she had suppressed it for too long and didn't need to bear it any longer. Wu Jinyin knew that now that Su Yingxue had saved her, she probably had no more relationship with the minister's estate. She lay on the bed, her face pale, but her gaze was resolute. Yingxue, I will repay you for saving me. Of course, the cost of saving your life is very expensive. Sister should think about how to repay me in the future. Su Yingxue jokingly eased the tension, hoping that Wu Jinyin wouldn't worry too much. She comforted Wu Jinyin to sleep, instructed Manager Qi to take good care of her, and then prepared to return to the estate with Jilan. Manager Qi wrote down the medical report, a full 3 pages long. Miss, please take a look. Su Yingxue glanced at it and thought to herself that Manager Qi was indeed a meticulous person. She could entrust her future sister-in-law to Manager Qi with peace of mind. As Su Yingxue returned to the estate with Jilan, she spotted old Madame Zhang waiting at the entrance. Now, old Madame Zhang was Su Yingxue's eyes in the estate. If any trouble arose, she would be waiting at the entrance for Su Yingxue's return. Upon entering, Su Yingxue was informed by old Madame Zhang. Miss, 2 officials came today to complain with the master. They are currently in the main hall. The master sent someone to wait at our courtyard entrance to intercept you. Upon hearing this, Su Yingxue changed direction and headed straight to the main hall. She asked, Do you recognize the 2 officials? Old Madame Zhang replied, One is Lord Liang, who has previously visited the estate. The other one is an unfamiliar lord. He seems to be injured, limping and covering his face. With a clear understanding, Su Yingxue instructed old Madame Zhang and Jilan to return to the courtyard first while she proceeded to the main hall. The reception hall of the Marquis Manor had 2 redwood pillars supporting the spacious hall. Inside, the decorations were exquisite and a faint fragrance lingered. There were people seated in the 3 designated positions. When Su Yingxue came in, the atmosphere was very tense. It was as if the air had stopped circulating. Chapter 85. Report to the Marquis residence. Her sudden appearance made Su Dingheng's heart skip a beat. With a face ashen, he pointed at her and cursed, You unfilial daughter, kneel now. Su Yingxue crossed her arms over her chest, her expression cold. I want kneel. Her cold refusal prompted Wu Hongtao to jeer. Marquis, your upbringing is truly commendable. Even when you ask her, your daughter, to kneel, she dares to openly defy you. It seems like she will trample all over you, her father, in the future. These words struck Su Dingheng's face like a slap. His face turned green and white, and he didn't dare to tell Wu Hongtao that Su Yingxue had already stepped all over him. But the more he was mocked, the more he wanted to vent his anger on Su Yingxue. Unfilial daughter, since I can no longer control you, you've become more and more reckless. How dare you assault an official of the court? You've committed such a serious crime, and I will never show you any favoritism. Su Yingxue lowered her head and smiled faintly. If I had truly committed such a serious crime, would you, father, show me any favoritism? Since she wanted to sever ties with him in front of Wu Hongtao, why should she give him a face? Su Yingxue, you... Su Dingheng felt a throbbing pain in his chest as if he was about to spit out a mouthful of blood again. All right, Marquis. Lord Liang has come to the Marquis Manor today for official business. Let's discuss your family matters after Lord Liang and Lord Wu leave. Liang Jin spoke up timely to diffuse the tension. He had admired the genius doctor in the past, and now he admired Su Yingxue even more for her remarkable medical skills at such a young age. However, as the capital governor, he had to handle the case impartially. He looked at Su Yingxue sternly. Miss Su, Lord Wu has filed a complaint against you at the capital prefecture, accusing you of assaulting an official of the court. Do you plead guilty? Do you have any defense? Su Yingxue glanced indifferently at the complaint in Liang Jin's hand and said, I plead not guilty. How dare you? Su Yingxue, it was you who injured me. Many people outside the clinic witnessed it. You want to escape the consequences. Wu Hongtao slammed the table and stood up with an indignant expression. He thought that by standing together with Liang Jin, he could intimidate Su Yingxue and make her beg for mercy in front of him. But she remained so arrogant. Truly infuriating. Su Yingxue took out Wu Jinyan's pulse chart from her sleeve and handed it to Liang Jin. Lord Liang, your timing is perfect. I also want to file a complaint against Lord Wu for committing a serious crime. Liang Jin was confused, while Su Dingheng and Wu Hongtao were dumbfounded. Wu Hongtao was confused. In the blink of an eye, he had become the accused. Liang Jin scrutinized the pulse chart, not understanding why Su Yingxue was showing it to him. Su Yingxue continued, Lord Liang, the signature on the chart belongs to Wu Jinyan, Lord Wu's biological daughter. And the serious crime committed by Lord Wu is neglecting his familial duties and allowing his daughter to commit murder, almost killing his flesh and blood. Wu Hongtao's heart skipped a beat. You're making baseless accusations. You're slandering me. If the pulse chart is baseless, then why did Lord Wu come to my clinic today causing a scene? That's because you injured my daughter and disrupted the minister's estate. Why did I hit Wu Ruofei? Because you saved that little bitch Wu Jinyan. As Wu Hongtao spoke, he suddenly felt that something was amiss. He had been led by this wretched girl and inadvertently revealed the truth. Liang Jin's expression changed upon hearing this. Lord Wu, how can you call your daughter a little wench? And it seems that you were aware of this incident. The two young ladies in your residence had a dispute, and Miss Wu Jinyan's injuries are indeed real? Chapter 86. A serious crime this? How can this be true? How could a conflict between two daughters result in such injuries? Ruofei is a bit hot-tempered, but she wouldn't have inflicted such severe harm. It was this Su Yingxue who attacked my daughter without any reason, so I went to confront her on Ruofei's behalf. But then Su Yingxue, and she even attacked me. Lord Liang, you have to help me with this matter. Wu Hongtao pretended to be a victim along with Wu Ruofei. Liang Jin looked at Su Yingxue. Miss Su, this pulse chart doesn't prove anything. Where is Wu Jinyan? If you want to sue Lord Wu, I need to send someone to examine the injuries. Su Yingxue nodded. Wu Jinyan is recovering in my clinic. Lord Liang can send an officer to examine her injuries at any time, but please send a female officer. Of course. Liang Jin waved his hand, and his subordinate immediately brought the female officer to the clinic. The round trip was swift. The female officer returned with a report. Sir, I have examined Miss Wu's injuries. They are exactly as described in the pulse chart. If she hadn't been rescued in time, she might have lost her life. Liang Jin was enraged upon hearing this. He pointed at Wu Hongtao and said, Lord Wu, what kind of father are you? Do you consider the children born from concubines, not your blood, not your daughters? Wu Hongtao was caught off guard by the scolding. He had forgotten that he was initially trying to cover up for Wu Ruofei. Lord Liang, please calm down. It's not like that. Su Yingxue is making baseless accusations. Ruofei is a good-hearted child. She is just a bit spoiled. Spoiled? But when I saved Wu Jinyan, I heard Wu Ruofei say she wanted to torture Wu Jinyan to death. Otherwise, I wouldn't have accidentally injured her. Ultimately, I was trying to save Wu Jinyan's life. Lord Wu, please don't take offense if I harmed your precious daughter. Su Yingxue immediately shifted all the blame onto Wu Hongtao and exaggerated it. Wu Hongtao forgot to defend himself for a moment. He pondered whether he had truly gone too far. After a moment of contemplation, he regained his composure and angrily accused Su Yingxue. You are being unreasonable. It was you who barged into my residence, injured my daughter, and even attacked me. It's all your fault. And Lord Wu is not at fault? You allow your daughter to commit murder and disregard her life. You are an uncompassionate father and an unjust official, yet you dare to sue me before Lord Liang? Su Yingxue raised an eyebrow, resembling a small lion bearing its claws. Wu Hongtao's face turned red from being scolded. I have been an official for many years, known for my integrity. You are slandering me. Slandering an official of the imperial court is an additional crime. I will leave it to Lord Liang to judge whether I'm guilty or not. As far as I recall, last month, the assistant of the Ministry of Justice had close connections with you. When he visited your residence, he even brought in several boxes through the back door of the minister's estate. I wonder what those boxes contained. Su Yingxue tilted her head innocently. Her words pierced into Wu Hongtao's heart like a steel needle. This Su Yingxue was indeed a peculiar creature, knowing even about that incident. Don't make baseless claims without evidence. Su Yingxue, you have injured me and my daughter. I will not let this matter rest. He turned to Liang Jin and cupped his hands. Lord Liang, as the capital governor, please judge this matter fairly. Liang Jin's face darkened as he glanced at him. I will deliver a fair judgment, but Lord Wu, you cannot escape the consequences. Allowing your daughter to commit murder is indeed a grave crime. Chapter 87. Su Yingxue doesn't have to kneel. Wu Hongtao knew that his current excuses would not deceive Liang Jin, so he shifted the blame onto Su Yingxue. Lord Liang, Su Yingxue has also committed a serious crime. You must not tolerate it. In Liang Jin's eyes, Wu Hongtao's disregard for familial relations was even more shameful than Su Yingxue's actions. With a stern face, Liang Jin responded, I will make my judgment. He sat down and contemplated how to handle the situation. After half an hour, Liang Jin looked at Wu Hongtao and Su Yingxue. Both of you are plaintiffs and defendants, and both of you have made mistakes. Therefore, I have decided to take both of you back to the capital prefecture for custody and schedule a court hearing at a later date. Wu Hongtao couldn't stay silent any longer. Lord Liang, I am an appointed official of the court. How can I be placed under custody? If this news spreads, I will lose my reputation. This cannot be. On the other hand, Su Yingxue appeared relatively calm. I am willing to go with Lord Liang. She was very clear about Liang Jin's reputation as an impartial and just official. She was confident that when the court hearing took place, she would ensure Wu Hongtao confessed and faced justice. In Liang Jin's eyes, he developed a slight admiration for Su Yingxue. Her composure and demeanor were truly remarkable. On the contrary, Wu Hongtao received a harsh scolding from Liang Jin. If you care so much about your reputation, why didn't you properly discipline your daughter? It's only now, when lives are at stake, that you suddenly care about your reputation. It's too late. Wu Hongtao's face was completely flushed, experiencing unprecedented humiliation. All of this was due to Su Yingxue. Su Dingheng felt a surge of delight when he saw Su Yingxue being taken away. He even pretended to be a loving father and instructed Su Yingxue, Yingxue, since Lord Liang is taking you into custody, I will take care of your clinic and shop on your behalf. While you are in the capital prefecture, reflect on your crimes. Don't provoke Lord Liang again. Su Yingxue shattered his illusions without any mercy. Father, there are professionals to manage the clinic and the shop. Even if I'm not around, you don't have to worry. What? What are you saying? Are you afraid that your father will embezzle your money? Su Dingheng became furious. Su Yingxue didn't hide her intentions at all. Indeed, that's the case. So, father, please don't meddle in my affairs. You unfilial daughter. Su Dingheng exploded. He wished for Liang Jin to take Su Yingxue away and never let her return. Hold on. Just as Liang Jin was about to leave with his entourage, Chu Yihan entered the Marquis Manor. As a renowned war hero, respected by everyone in the Great Qing dynasty, Chu Yihan was highly regarded even though there were no more battles, and he was no longer seen in his armor. Liang Jin held great respect for him. He quickly knelt to pay his respects. Greetings, Your Highness. He reminded Su Dingheng and Wu Hongtao, who also knelt before Chu Yihan. Greetings, Your Highness. Chu Yihan nodded and walked over. He supported Su Yingxue, who was about to kneel before him, and softly said, You don't need to kneel before me. These words whispered into her ear, were ambiguous and provocative, causing her tender earlobes to blush. Chu Yihan took his seat in the main position. 3 appointed officials of the imperial court remained kneeling in the hall, while Su Yingxue stood. The atmosphere was exceedingly peculiar. However, since Chu Yihan had forbidden Su Yingxue to kneel, Liang Jin and the others dared not utter a word. Noticing that Su Yingxue was still standing, Chu Yihan's voice turned colder as he said, "Sit down." Su Yingxue was speechless. Her father and Liang Jin were still kneeling. It didn't seem good. Seeing that she was still standing, Chu Yihan said coldly, "Sit down." Chapter 88. Your Highness is too unbiased. Yes, Your Highness. Su Yingxue suddenly became obedient. She intentionally sat next to Wu Hongtao, who was kneeling obediently. It looked as if he was kneeling before her. Wu Hongtao was seething with anger, but didn't dare to act recklessly in front of Chu Yihan. He could only cover his bruised ego with his hand. Liang Jin sought Chu Yihan's guidance. Your Highness, with your presence here, do you find any flaws in my handling of the case? Chu Yihan's face turned stern, and his eyes were as cold as stars. I don't understand when Lord Liang, who has served as the capital governor for so many years, started making such careless decisions. Liang Jin's heart trembled, and he quickly prostrated himself. I have been remiss. I humbly request Your Highness' guidance, and I will correct my mistakes promptly. Chu Yihan naturally exuded an aura of nobility and dominance. Liang Jin, Wu Hongtao, and Su Dingheng didn't dare to challenge him. They remained on their knees, bowing as if they were in the Tai Chi Hall, attentively listening to the emperor's decrees. Lord Liang, in both cases you handled, the root cause lies with Wu Hongtao's lack of discipline and instigation. Yet you plan to take the rescuer and the provoked individual into custody. Does that make any sense? Chu Yihan's voice grew colder, and his pressure intensified. Although Liang Jin felt the pressure, he had no choice but to speak the truth. Your Highness, although Miss Su is the rescuer and was provoked, she is also at fault for causing harm. Moreover, she knew that Lord Wu is an appointed official of the court, yet she assaulted him in public. This cannot be considered innocence. Wu Hongtao saw an opportunity to defend himself. That's right, Your Highness. This Su Yingxue intruded into my residence and assaulted me in public. It was truly going too far. Chu Yihan nodded. I heard that when Lord Wu went to the clinic, he brought more than 20 guards with him. Wu Hongtao wanted to gain sympathy from Chu Yihan, so he continued, That's correct. All of my 20 guards were injured. Your Highness, just look at my face. It's swollen from Su Yingxue's slap. Do you still have the audacity to complain to me? Chu Yihan reprimanded with a cold voice. As an official of the imperial court, you have recklessly harassed a weak woman and brought numerous guards with you, only to end up battered and bruised. Wu Hongtao, how is it that I was unaware that there is such a useless person in the court? What purpose does the court serve by providing a salary to worthless individuals like you? Wu Hongtao was stunned into silence. Su Yingxue was also momentarily stunned. She propped up her face, her beautiful eyes filled with puzzlement. She wanted to ask Chu Yihan, Your Highness, isn't your bias a little too obvious? She couldn't help but let out a laugh. However, Chu Yihan didn't perceive it that way. His voice remained cold and deep. As an official of the imperial court, you have brought disgrace upon the court. Today, I shall punish you with 100 cane strikes. Lord Liang will bring you back to the capital prefecture for the execution. 100 cane strikes. Wu Hongtao collapsed onto the ground. Wasn't this tantamount to taking his life? Liang Jin also felt that 100 cane strikes were excessive, but Chu Yihan was the 9th prince, and he was above everyone else. Even the emperor might not refute his words. Therefore, Liang Jin didn't argue and instead tactfully responded, I will comply with the decree. However, Your Highness, I must ensure Lord Wu's safety, or else the case cannot be tried in the future. Lord Liang, you shall make that decision yourself. Chu Yihan ceased further questioning. As for Miss Su, Your Highness, what will be her fate? If you have no specific instructions, I will bring her back to the capital prefecture, Liang Jin stated as he stood up. She doesn't need to accompany you back to the capital prefecture. I will personally watch over her until the court hearing takes place, Chu Yihan replied with an unchanged expression. Chapter 89. Did this king let you get up? Liang Jin's eyes were filled with confusion. Your Highness, how will you personally guard her? In what manner? There was a distinction between men and women. In his residence, there were female attendants who could watch over Su Yingxuk, but Chu Yihan was a man. Was he going to personally guard Su Yingxue in the Marquis manner? Su Dingheng grew anxious. Your Highness, it's unnecessary to trouble you. My daughter has made a mistake. I humbly request Lord Liang to bring her back to the capital prefecture. Are you kidding? He was already afraid of Chu Yihan. If he stayed in the Marquis manor to watch over Su Yingxuk, would his frail heart still hold up? Su Yingxue also felt uneasy. Your Highness, according to customs, it would be better for me to go with Lord Liang. Chu Yihan watched over her every day, but she refused. Do you not want me to guard you? Chu Yihan's cold gaze fell on Su Yingxuk. His eyes were beautiful, but she could sense a hint of resentment, as if she had done something cruel to him. Su Yingxue's lips twitched. She had to be cruel.
Yes.
The resentment in Chu Yihan's eyes vanished, and he spoke coldly to Liang Jin. Did you see that? She doesn't want to be guarded by me. It means she fears me. She willingly goes with you, but if anything happens to her under your care, whether she escapes, runs away, or if you handle the case unfairly, how will you handle it? Liang Jin was perplexed, his mind filled with question marks. He used his lifetime of experience in handling cases to analyze Chu Yihan's words and came to the conclusion Chu Yihan forbade him from colluding with Su Yingxue. To confirm his suspicions, Chu Yihan added, I've heard that Mrs. Liang has a strict upbringing. If she learns that you're bringing a woman back to the manor to guard her, would she not be concerned? This, Liang Jin, known for his impartiality, was defeated by Chu Yihan. He had no choice but to compromise. If your Highness is willing to personally guard Miss Su, then it would be good. However, can your Highness guarantee that she won't escape or face any mishaps until the day I open the court? Naturally, I guarantee it, Chu Yihan said casually. Your Highness, there's no need to trouble yourself. It's better than Lord Liang guards my daughter. Su Yingxue refused once again. To have Chu Yihan watch over her. What kind of situation would that be? What if he had to sleep in her bed at night to keep watch? Recalling their previous experience of sharing a bed, Su Yingxue felt the probability of that happening was too high. Chu Yihan held onto the jade pendant at his waist and calmly said, Alternatively, the people from Tongchang Medical Center are suspected of assisting you in assaulting an official of the court. It might be better to bring them back to the capital prefecture for supervision as well. Su Yingxue clenched her lips. Chu Yihan, shameless. In the end, she compromised with the oppressive force. Liang Jin took Wu Hongtao away. Before leaving, he requested a promise from Chu Yihan that he would watch over Su Yingxue and prevent her from causing trouble at the minister's estate. Chu Yihan agreed. After Liang Jin departed, Su Yingxue intended to return to her courtyard. As the person assigned to guard her, Chu Yihan naturally accompanied her. When Su Dingheng saw Chu Yihan leave, he quickly had the servants help him up. Chu Yihan's chilling voice echoed in the air. Did I give you permission to rise? Plop. Su Dingheng was so frightened that he knelt back down and shouted, I wouldn't dare. Your Highness, please forgive me. Chu Yihan brazenly entered Su Yingxue's courtyard. Behind him, Imochi silently admired his master's audacity. Su Yingxue entered the bedroom, and Chu Yihan followed. Zhelan blocked his path. Your Highness, this is Miss Private Chamber. It would be best if you didn't enter. Chapter 90. This king will only hide you. Chu Yihan's face, as exquisite as a fairy, remained serious. As the guardian, do you think I would do anything to your miss? Zhelan lowered her head, trembling. I dare not, your Highness. She stepped aside and watched as Chu Yihan entered the room. She inwardly sighed. Miss, I have done my best. She couldn't stop him. From the window, Su Yingxue heard Chu Yihan's footsteps approaching and quickly spoke up, "Your Highness, please don't come in. I'm changing my clothes." Chu Yihan's gaze deepened. Did this little girl intentionally say that for him to hear? He stood in front of the screen, watching as her graceful figure was depicted by the jade screen. Suddenly, an impulse surged within him to enter the room. Moreover, he sensed the presence of another person behind the screen. Chu Yihan swiftly circled around to the back of the screen, and Su Yingxue immediately jumped out to block his line of sight. "Your Highness, is this how you guard someone? You even want to see my body?" Chu Yihan raised an eyebrow and playfully pinched her nose. I do." Su Yingxue's face turned beet red, and Chu Yihan's bluntness was beyond ordinary. Couldn't he be a bit more reserved? His intentions were so obvious. To conceal the person behind her, she pushed Chu Yihan out first. "Your Highness, please wait outside." Chu Yihan turned around as if he was about to leave. However, when Su Yingxue wasn't paying attention, he swiftly turned back and slipped into the room. His sharp gaze swept across Su Yingxue's bed, but he found no signs of anyone hiding. However, his instincts told him otherwise. "Does Your Highness really see me as a criminal?" Su Yingxue's gaze turned cold. Chu Yihan returned to her side and led her out. "I'm just afraid that there may be someone with ill intentions lurking around you." That person emitted a bloodthirsty aura. He was worried it would pose a threat to Su Yingxue. "I don't have a habit of hiding people in my room," Su Yingxue huffed. "I have only hidden you." Chu Yihan affectionately rubbed her nose. The coldness in Su Yingxue's eyes subsided slightly. "Thank you, Your Highness, for today, but I don't like being constantly guarded." "I understand. The purpose of guarding is to protect you. With I am here, anyone with malicious intent won't dare to lay a hand on you." Chu Yihan gazed at her with a gentle expression. Su Yingxue felt a sense of unease. Chu Yihan's tense relationship with the emperor could affect her investigation into her mother's death within the palace. Her sole purpose in this life was revenge, and she had no time for romance. She released Chu Yihan's hand. "Thank you, Your Highness, for your kindness. There's nothing I can do to repay you. Have you taken the medicine I gave you last time?" Chu Yihan smiled. "Yes, I drank it. It indeed helped heal my old injuries. In that case, they'll prepare another prescription for you, Your Highness. If you take it for some time, your recovery will be even faster." Su Yingxue asked Chu Yihan to wait in the room for a while as she went in and out of the Medicine King's Valley. After gathering some rare medicinal herbs, she prepared the medicine and handed it to him. Chu Yihan held the medicine packet in his hand. "Is this your way of showing your concern for me? I accept it." Su Yingxue had always thought her skin was fair, but whenever Chu Yihan spoke, she would easily blush. She nodded quietly. "Consider it as such." Chu Yihan received her kindness and left, satisfied. Emochi looked at the medicine in Chu Yihan's hand and sighed. "Master, it's rare to see a girl delivering medicine to you." Chapter 91. The Battle of the Three Kingdoms. Madame Wu of the minister's mansion. In the past, Chu Yihan would receive either scented letters or personal items from women, all meant to please him and express affection. A sense of pride appeared in Chu Yihan's eyes. "I have said before that she is not an ordinary woman." Emochi was silently criticizing him when he suddenly heard Chu Yihan say, "There is an assassin by her side. Find out who it is and kill him." Chu Yihan's eyes flashed with coldness, and Emochi immediately dropped his joking expression. "Understood, master." After Chu Yihan left, Ziwei quietly appeared in front of Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue patted his shoulder. Fortunately, he didn't discover anything. Ziwei was expressionless, his voice hoarse. "He did. But you hid so well just now." "He sensed my presence." Ziwei's eyes gleamed with killing intent. After years of being an assassin, he was 100 times more sensitive than an ordinary person. He could sense that Chu Yihan possessed the same sensitivity, and not only that, but his martial arts skills were also extremely powerful. Su Yingxue felt a heavy burden on her heart. Be more cautious in the future. Don't let him find out. Chu Yihan was a high-ranking prince, and Su Yingxue worried that it would lead to a conflict between him and Ziwei. However, she didn't expect Ziwei to say, He will kill me. What? Do you have some personal grudge? No, it's just my intuition, Ziwei said coldly. His intuition made Su Yingxue not know whether to laugh or cry. Isn't it said that a woman's intuition is the most accurate? Are men's intuitions accurate too? Ziwei's gaze turned cold. Others may not be accurate, but I am. The corners of Su Yingxue's mouth twitched. Wow, he was extremely confident. However, she had already gotten used to having Ziwei by her side. She felt at ease with him around. In the following days, she took care of Wu Jinyan, who recovered quickly. Although she couldn't leave her bed, her complexion improved. Su Yingxue told her about Wu Hongtao being beaten and imprisoned. Wu Jinyan remained indifferent, showing no concern. Su Yingxue could see a sense of relief in her eyes. Wu Jinyan was considerate and understanding. She had even prevented Su Yingxue from telling Su Hao about her injuries. Xilan's heart ached for Wu Jinyan and asked, "Miss, are we not going to tell eldest young master about this?" She felt that what Wu Jinyan needed now was comfort and companionship from Su Hao. Su Yingxue also struggled with this matter. It was fine if Su Hao didn't know about it, but if he found out later, it would only bring him heartache for Wu Jinyan. However, she had no experience in relationships in her past and present lives, so she did not know if she should tell Su Hao about this. While Su Yingxue was pondering, a middle-aged woman dressed in luxurious clothes entered the clinic. She walked directly towards Su Yingxue, her dignified and graceful appearance accompanied by a slight smile. "Hello, Miss Su." Su Yingxue's brow twitched. "Madam, are you here for a medical visit? Please go to the counter and wait for your turn." Madame Wu was kind and polite. "I'm here to pick up my daughter. Jinyan has been staying with Miss Su for so long, causing you inconvenience." "Picking up your daughter?" Su Yingxue's lips curled up. "Interesting." Madame Wu couldn't sit still anymore. Madame Wu smiled and nodded. "Yes, after all, Jinyan is the daughter of the minister's estate. It wouldn't be proper to keep troubling Miss Su." "Madame Wu, are you planning to bring Sister Jinyan back and continue to mistreat her, torturing her to death?" Su Yingxue smiled, but her beautiful eyes emitted an icy chill. The smile on Madame Wu's face froze, and she quickly said, "What are you talking about, Miss Su? The daughter of the minister's estate is naturally well cared for. How could she be mistreated?" You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.